Hi, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's Sunday night. I really hope my internet is going to handle the heat. It's certainly going to handle the heat of the people I got in the background. We got a Sunday night show. It's going to be spicy. It's going to be not so nicey. Maybe it will. Maybe we don't know where we're going to go. But we are starting the Spurs Talk Show, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen right about now. Lovely touch from him though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! There could be from the dead to the don't fuck it up now, don't fuck it up! Go and win it! Let's go for chance! Stephen Bergwijn! Stephen Bergwijn's through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! He's won it! He's won it! Oh my God! Oh my God! We did it! Yo, check this out. What is happening, people? There's something madness going on. There is some madness going on. We are not even 3 minutes into the show, 2.5 minutes of which was the intro video. And there's 270 of you in the house? What is going on? What is going on? What are we doing here? We're talking Tottenham tonight. Smash the like button on your way in, like you're taking your shoes off, as a wise man once said. And that wise man is in the house tonight. Not only was he on the video that you just saw back when I was a little bit skinnier and a little bit less unhealthy, but he's back. He's gracing his presence alongside two wonderful people from the same channel, the Spurs related. We got a little wonderful quad for everyone this evening. How you doing, guys? I hope you're happy and healthy, doing the things you love with the people that you love doing them with. The only thing I'm going to apologize for in this particular part of the segment is if my internet is not holding up. It never does in the best of weather. But when the climes are hot like they are this evening and I'm sweating already, you might not even be listening to me. I don't even know what's going on. But let's get them in the house. First and foremost, let me bring in the boys from Spurs Related. You know them as James and Jack. I'll bring him in as a duo. I should really bring him in as individuals, but I'm going to bring him as a duo because I just want to say hi to both of them. How you guys doing? What's crack-a-lacking?
Go on, Jack.
Doing well. Buzzing to be on the channel. It's been long overdue. I feel like I'm making like my second debut. It's been that long, but I tell you what, exciting times at Tottenham. Talking about Postecoglou. Got my right hand man James with me. It's going to be a good one tonight. I can feel it.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, buzzing to be here, Sean. It's been a long time since we've been on here, but absolutely buzzing to be here. And of course, you got an incredible lineup as well with the man himself as well coming in a minute.
Let me bring him in as well. Let me join. I don't know. I should just bring him all in at one go. What's happening, Dave? How you doing, man? From the Irish, the Emerald Isle, talking Tottenham, wearing the flat cap like I do, but it's his thing. I just copied it. What's crack-a-lacking, Dave? How are you, buddy?
No, I'm all good. I'm all good. Like yourself, Sean, a few pounds heavier from that video. But that's what Tottenham do to you. You know, we've had to have many discussions because Tottenham have been so bad for the last few years. However, things are looking bright right now, and hopefully the signings keep coming our way.
100%. Guys, I'm going to be asking everyone in the comments right now. Look, for the interest of time, I'm going to whip through and say hello to everybody real quick because I've got about 25 questions to be asking these guys. But I am going to be popping up into the comments. I'm going to be putting up Spurs Related and their channel link. And I'm also going to be putting up the Irish Hotspur channel link in there. But listen, I don't need likes tonight. I don't want likes for me. Oh, I do want likes for me, of course. I'm saying this indirectly. I do want likes for me. I want you to like me. I want you to love me. But I also want anyone that is not yet subscribed to Dave, the Irish Hotspur. Everyone who knows me knows him. But I want everyone to go and subscribe to him if you haven't already. And I also want everyone who hasn't subscribed to Spurs Related to get below. You can find the link in the title of the video for both of these guys' channels. So I don't know, James and Jack, I want you guys, whatever number you're on, pick a number that you think is reasonable, and we're going to hold everyone accountable for the subscribers. How many do you want? How many subscribers do you want tonight from the Spurs Talk Show, Ponies and Puppies? Let's put some pressure on.
We're growing very quickly actually at the moment because we're doing daily uploads, but we're 8 off 1.7k. So if we can pass that and smash that, I'll be absolutely buzzing.
All right. Okay. We can definitely get 8. Smash the link. Dave, listen, we all know you've already got everyone here anyway. But if you haven't already, smash the like and subscribe for the Irish Hotspur. Before we get in, I want to get straight into the comments and the questions. But I got to shout out a few new members of the channel. Peter Stylianu. I don't know. It's stylish either way. Sounds like a little bit of Postecoglou, but the stylish version of him. Welcome to the show. I'm not sure if you're a puppy or a pony. But I know either way, thank you so much for the support. Also to Orox Beats. Love it, mate. Love your logo as well. Seems a little bit devilish when you got the horns going up. I like that about you. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for the support. And Bobby K's back. He was a member. He was an early member. He left me. He ditched me, I think, and come back because I had a phone call with him and he's like, now we're mates again. I don't know if we were never not mates, but we were always cool. But he's back supporting the show. Welcome back, Bobby. Love you to pieces. Also, there's somebody else who's just come in, and who is it? It's Nick Lazy 8, my man from Brooklyn, who's the guy behind the scenes, who's responsible for all of the crazy stuff that happens at the Irish Hotspur. Nick is back too. Thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate it. Guys, I ain't got time to say hello to everyone. There's 400 people in the house. Everyone smash the comments, put some likes in. I need you chat to lock in. I need you to dial into this one because I'm going to be asking you to figure out for me with W's or L's. W's or L's. They are the rules, okay? When Dave, when Jack, or when James says something, I need to know immediately whether what they're saying is true or false, whether it's good or bad. And you got to do that with W's or L's, okay? That's the rules. W's or L's. Very simple. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. We are going to start with this particular question. But I've got to get this one out of the way for early doors. Greta Steinson is out of the club. There is no director of football. Dave, I'm going to start with you on this one. Okay. Scott Munn's been involved in the club for about 90 days, give or take, right? Maybe 70 days, I'm not sure. Ever since he's come in, there is no director of football. All that's happening is there's more and more changes in the background, but there's no one coming in. Everyone's going out. We don't know whether or not Postecoglou is the guy who's making all the decisions, pulling all the strings with regards incoming players, but we don't want Postecoglou to be tied up with outgoing players. We need him to make a list of the players he doesn't want, hand it over to someone, and for that person to take care of it. What is going on with regards the exits and the boardroom structure? Is it a problem? Do we have to worry about it with regard getting rid of some of the dross? I'll start with you, Dave, and then I'm going to come down to Jack and then to James.
Yeah, look, Shawnee, I think there's a lot of clutter sort of in the backroom team, especially with some of the stuff that Paratici tried to do with hiring scouts, people in various positions. So, look, with Greta Steinson, I mean, you have him as, I think he was, performance director or something like that. You had Dean Rastrick, head of academy. Then you've got Stephen Davies, head of academy methodology. So they're sort of clashing. You've also got Andy Scolding, Gabonini, in terms of putting a lot of players forward and stuff like that in terms of signings and stuff like that. So, and it does seem, Sean, that they're still sort of operating off the old Paratici model, and he still has a bit of influence at Tottenham, it seems. But look, there's just a lot of cluttering going on there. A lot of people that were brought in by Paratici and given positions, and it's sort of just cluttering it up right now. And I think what they're trying to do is just get a settled structure in place so that there is no more sort of what would you call it? Just mad decisions being made. Like even with the academy, you had a guy that was head of bringing in players for the academy, but then you also had Gabbanini also doing the same. So, you had a lot of people sort of carrying out the same sort of job. So it needed to be decluttered so that we can put a structure in place and get the right people in place as well. Now, look, I do know that Jamie Donnelly's father wasn't happy with it whatsoever. He tweeted out, he said, he was crucial behind getting Jamie Donnelly his contract, plus a lot of the other youngsters, especially Mikey Moore, tying them down to contracts. And apparently he had a good relationship with them, going around speaking to the parents, this, that, and the other. So it is sad to see Greta Steinson go, but I didn't really understand the appointment of him in the first place. I wasn't exactly sure what exactly his role was, especially when you have Paratici there bringing in players and making a lot of decisions. I don't understand exactly what Greta Steinson's role was, because he sort of held a similar position to Paratici at Everton. So I think it was just a lot of chaos. We were trying to go from the old regime into the new regime with Paratici, and it sort of got very cluttered. So we're just decluttering it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
sorry, mate. Sorry, mate, I collapsed in the last second.
We there?
Go on, Jack. Go on, Jack, mate. I'll see you, buddy.
But I echo all your thoughts exactly, and I think the new era with Ange Postecoglou, I feel like we need kind of a fresh start. We don't want to be playing this negative style of football. We want everyone with visions aligning, and I feel like we need to get everyone on board. A full clear out is potentially needed, and I feel like you say, we don't really want people doing the same role, because then there comes the power play. We need one clear leader, everyone directing to him. And like you say, we want to play this high pressing attacking football. So we need to be able to hire the players to be able to do that. I've heard a lot of Spurs fans speak highly of Leonardo Gabbanini, I think his name is, like our chief scout. And he's been looking around for all these players that are going to fit Ange Postecoglou's style. So like you say, decluttering is really important. And I'm looking forward to seeing who we now bring in to make sure, because I think a director of football is massive really for the direction we want to go in. And I just hope that's sorted sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I love that, mate. James, think the director of football is necessary under a Postecoglou system? If Postecoglou's the guy who knows enough about world football to be able to say that my style is quite nuanced, I know exactly who I need. I know players that, give me the budget, we can figure it out, which is all great. If that's the case, I'm okay with it. But I don't want him take his time taken up dealing with outgoings. And I think that the absence of a DOF, when there's so much change happening at club Tottenham Hotspur, I think there's a problem there, James. Where do you sit on the DOF situation?
Oh, 100%. I agree. Like, the director of football is there to be involved at the hub of recruitment, not, our manager shouldn't be doing that. Our manager should be giving, his list of who he wants and advising what leagues maybe to look at and look at into more depth. But, Postecoglou's coming into an absolute mess, you've got to remember. We finished the season, one of the worst seasons we've had in years, right? So he's got to come in, he's got to say who he wants and who he doesn't want and clear the dead wood. And that's also got to be passed on to the director of football. And then he's got to really develop this whole squad as well, get them ticking, get the morale up. The manager shouldn't be, his main focus shouldn't be recruitment. That's what a director of football's for. There's talks that Paratici is still doing stuff behind the scenes on the quiet. I don't know how true that is. I know it's only a little rumor, but I'm sure that we've still got that sort of link. You look at Vicario, there's no way Paratici wasn't involved in that. I'm sorry, I do not believe that for a second. So there is still stuff going on behind the scenes, but we've got to stop. We can't use Paratici. He's banned, right? So we've got to be using a key figure, someone that Postecoglou maybe knows or works closely with or knows that he's going to do an absolute job like Paratici was doing at the start. Don't forget Bentancur, Kulusevski. That was one of our best windows in so long. I remember even Dave coming on our channel and thinking that was like a very, very, very good window. And I wasn't too sure. And Dave was right. You know, Kulusevski and Bentancur did absolute bits. And maybe a lot of fans weren't too sure how good those players are. We need that caliber of director of football back to step us back in that right direction again.
The thing is, can I just come in on that, Shawnee? With Paratici, we're still going to use a lot of the methods that he sort of used at Tottenham Hotspur, because we haven't been able to move on from, because we don't have a director of football to show us a new way. When you look at the Vicario signing, I think it was Alistair Gold put out an article, and he was saying that, you know, Vicario was scouted long before by Paratici and by Gabbanini, and Paratici actually inquired about him before he ended up getting that ban. And also, when you look at the way the Vicario deal went down, we personal terms agree with David Raya, but we were working on Vicario under the radar, and that is a tactic that Paratici adopts. He goes after many targets, and he ends up taking in the best sort of option. So the reason why we're still operating in the same way that Paratici used to is purely because we don't have another director of football to show us a new way.
Correct. Yeah.
Spot on. And I like what you said there. Like, I read out Alistair Gold's article as well. And the fact that I think it's a smart way of operating. If Brentford are not going to budge their price down, we can't be stupid and overpay. We're scouting these players. We're inquiring. We had to get in there early before the likes of Milan and Juventus were there. So I just, like you say, I echo your thoughts, Dave.
The thing is as well, just quickly, if you end up overpaying on one, it has a knock-on effect for the rest of the window, because every club then for the target you're going for are going to do the same. They're going to see you coming. So at some point, you do have to stand firm and say, look, no, it's just a ridiculous price, and we'll go elsewhere so that you can go and get your other targets for a reasonable price. Because if we would have paid the 40 million for Raya, Leicester probably would have asked for 80 million for Maddison. Probably have Leverkusen doubling up and asking for 50 million for someone like Tapsoba, rather than the 25 million fee reported today. So, you know, as a knock-on effect, if you do end up overpaying, and many people weren't happy when we overpaid for Richarlison last year as well. So, you know, sometimes you have to stand your ground to get the best bang for your buck.
Myself included, mate. I genuinely feel like this, and we're going to talk about the window thus far. I always dare to say the word thus far, because of last summer we said thus far on July the 1st, and it caused mayhem, and then it gradually got weaker and weaker as the summer went on. But I do think that it's worth pointing out, for me personally, that people like Vicario getting that done at half the price of a David Raya, getting Kulusevski done, you know, 7-8 million quid less than it could have cost if we just did the deal. You know, there's value there, and if you are working and operating under a budget, then, which of course we always are, then that money can now be repositioned to other things, like getting some of those statement signings over the line, like a Tapsoba, like a James Maddison. We are going to talk about that, but before we move on from Greta Steinsson, I appreciate what you guys have all said so far. Absolutely spot on, in my opinion. Greta was too close, says the Joracle. He was too close to the Joracle. Levy couldn't risk it. He had to go. Jory for chairman. Hashtag Leafy out. Big up, Jory, mate. I think you're very, very astute, man. I would be okay if you wanted to come in as chairman. I don't know. We have to have an interview process. I think there'll be a few people up there for that. But thank you so much for the super chat. Do you think that, guys, anyone want to come into it? I mean, listen, I don't know what that guy Greta Steinsson was really up to. Don't really know what performance director means. Like, it's a bit of a kind of wishy-washy title that gets thrown around a lot. Not entirely sure what he's done or hasn't done in the last 6 months that, you know, that any of us as fans from the outside looking in can really judge him on. Jory's saying that he was too close to Jory. Did any of you guys really understand what his role was?
No, I think a performance director, Sean, is someone who sort of is head of, like, you know, performance and, you know, basically everything that leads to the performances on the pitch to try and have the best in class and stuff like that. And, you know, look, it's hard to really know what his role was. I think he was just brought in as a number 2 to Paratici, if you want me to be brutally honest.
Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah.
You know, whether that's HR or something else. Oh, sorry. Go on, mate.
I was just going to say, I agree. I'm not the most educated on this. I know he gets paid a lot of money probably to report to Paratici, but yeah, apart from that, for me, I wouldn't say performance director. There was nothing. I didn't really see anything from articles that proved he was like a really important and a necessity part of Tottenham, really.
Yeah, I'm okay with the reshuffle. Whether if he's important, then he can't be that important. And if he was important but didn't do a good job, whatever. Look, if Scott Munn wants to come in and clear house, get rid of the Paratici old and bring in the Scott Munn new, I'm okay with it. We're going through a rebuild. If that requires people like Steinson to be out of a job, I don't even know what he did in the first place. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jory. Longgeezy saying, my old MD, my old managing director reminded me of Daniel Levy, Napoleon syndrome, micromanager, penny pincher, high staff turnover, and high profits. Is giving me post-traumatic stress, PTSD, disorder. That's the last word of that. Yeah, look, he certainly comes across that way, mate. Yeah, we know me. I feel like I've defended him more than most people in the Tottenham community for his for certain situations, but I genuinely do think that he gets involved far too much. And hopefully, the Scott Munn thing, according to some reports, Scott Munn is there now to be the complete division of labour, to make Daniel Levy step away. But with regards to the first two signings of the window, everything stinks of Daniel Levy, right? Like he's not going to sit there and pay the money that's asked. He's going to negotiate and haggle and work his way down and have to walk away if necessary. Doesn't really feel like it thus far that it's anything other than Daniel Levy that's still doing the Daniel Levy style of thing. James, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's just, he's probably not to talk down on Scott Munn so far, but I think it would be nice and clearer for the fans if we knew exactly what he was doing as well, because I think it's all a little bit of guesswork right now. We've apparently got this, new fan board that's new every 6 months, even though it's the same thing, but they try and say it's new so that it gets the fans back on board after a difficult spell on the pitch, right? Everyone on Twitter was digging the club out for saying there's a new fan advisory board that's going to, give the fans more say in the club. But, has that actually changed? What more is being done from a fan perspective? It would be nice to know what goes on in the club more, I think, so that we're not having this kind of guesswork on this panel. Although our guest is quite educated guesses, it's also good to know exactly what this Scott Munn is doing. I honestly don't fully understand it, to be honest.
I don't think I do either. I know Dave's got a take on it, thinking that he's in place to eventually build out the multi-club ownership. But you know what, Dave? I'd love to have you on to go through that sort of thing together on a separate comment. It's not really part of the story tonight. So yeah, let's move on, guys, to question 2 of the night, right? And I want to start with very quickly reading through the this take, right, from Tottenham London, football.london's and Tottenham's side of it. Let me bring it up if I can quickly. I don't know if you can see that, right? But this is from an interview, from this delightful interview from them that they've transcribed. And I want to just quickly bang through this and then get your take on it. It's always, this is what Ange Postecoglou said. It's always for me how the football I want us to play. How is it affected by what the opposition want us to do, want to do? It's not about changing our approach. It's about what are they going to do to try to stop us, he said. What are the potential weaknesses in them that we can use in our game model to exploit that? So you're always well prepared and the players are well versed in their strengths and weaknesses, but it's always around the notion that we're still going to play this style of football, try to dominate in these areas, and we're going to do that by addressing it in this way. It's a bit of both in terms of tweaking personnel and knowing their threats. There's been some constants in my career over the last 25 years. Some things I really believe in that are unshakable in my beliefs. I like my team to have the ball. I want us to be aggressive in everything we do. I want us to play in the opposition half. I don't want us to be passive at any stage. These are the fundamentals. But within that, you find that you also, that you go along, as you go along, you get challenged by unbelievable teams with great qualities and their own sort of way of playing. And you need adjustments. The way I've done it is how I've set up the game model and now how it's evolved. If you look at our team now, I've got 4 or 5 wingers. This is the important part. So focus this bit. I've got 4 or 5 wingers, and they're all wingers, but they've all got different qualities. Some have speed, some are better on the dribble, others are just great at getting on the end of things. So depending on who we play, it's then about team selection. It's the same with the midfield dynamic. Do I need 2 more dynamic midfielders? Do I need 2 10s? Do I need an 8 and a 10? I've tried to build teams where we'll play our 4-3-3, but that can look so different depending on the 11 I put out there. So I want to stop there, right? Because it goes on. But the takeaway from me on that is that people accuse Ange Postecoglou of having one system. One is kind of like, if plan A doesn't work, plan B is to do plan A better. And to a degree, I worry about that. I have worried about that because I was someone who criticized Conte for not having a plan B, for doing the same thing. But what I'm reading here in this interview is more that there's so many, like, it's nuanced. Like he has a like a formation board that looks the same, but where he tweaks it is in the personnel and the individual roles that the personnel are asked to play. And so whilst it might look like 4-3-3 every week, actually, depending on the opposition, depending on what he wants as the outcome, depending on how he finds the weaknesses and the strengths, he's going to make that 4-3-3 look one week incredibly different to another. And to me, that comes across as quite exciting, and it actually dampens my concerns a little bit. James, I'll start with you, mate. Like, how do you read that? And are you worried about his, the things I've just mentioned? Are you worried about the lack of plan B, or is this version of a plan B perfect and all you need to hear?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a completely different formation. We're not expecting Ange to be able to play 4 at the back or a 5 at the back. We know it's going to be a 4 at the back. But like you said, this 4-3-3 with a number 10 could also be 2 number 10s. You've also got to look at the wingers as well. Look at Jota from Celtic. Sometimes he starts on the left and then he goes on the right-hand side. So we could see wingers swap sides during games as well, which is another variable in this formation. You've also got times where you've almost got the 2 holding players, but actually more often than not, like you say, you've got the number 6 going forwards. And I just believe that he is actually a very versatile manager and very modern in the way he thinks. In the Conte system, I know they're completely polar opposite managers, but you didn't really see that switching of the wings or getting a forward-thinking midfielder to go in front. Conte actually did that more with Inter Milan, where he had Lautaro Martinez almost playing alongside Lukaku, but coming deeper to pick up the ball. With Tottenham, it was always this rigid sort of 5-2-3 formation, and it was getting found out at the end. I think the first season it was great. At the end of the season when we got the Champions League, but it got stale. Obviously, stuff happened behind the scenes as well, we know. But I think Ange has a lot up his sleeve that he could really change around with this formation.
100%, mate. 100%. Jack, I'll come to you next, mate. Like, are you excited by? I mean, I don't know if that interview gives enough of the game away or too much. Do you think that there is a scenario where the 4-3-3 could become something else? Like, a lot of the links that we're getting right now are with a variety of different players at the back. Gleison Bremer has been heavily linked with Tottenham. He doesn't, for me, fit a back 4. I think he fits at the middle of a back 3 much better. Is there any chance that in your mind, you're going to see Ange doing anything other than a 4-3-3? And is all of his little tweaks going to be within that kind of very rigid system? Or do you actually see maybe because he's inheriting a squad that was built around a back 3 with wing backs, that maybe he's going to adapt and pivot and go into a different direction?
From what I can take from everything Ange Postecoglou stands for is that he's going to stick to his fundamentals. And one of his fundamentals is playing high attacking, intense football, a 4-3-3 that he's always used and he's always had success with. There goes a saying, if it's not broke, don't change it. And for me, he loves playing that style of football. You can play a 4-3-3, but you can adapt like Man City do. They play the same formation pretty much every week under Guardiola, but they change the personnel. One week you might have Phil Foden playing on the left. I know we're talking about different caliber of players, but they're different players. You've got Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish that he tends to use, but you've also got direct wingers that he used to like Sterling, like Sane. And I feel like you can change a lot of different style of play. You don't have to change the formation to have a different method, really. And I just feel like he's a very knowledgeable man. He's had for over 30 years of experience in coaching. I think I saw a fantastic article that Alistair Gold said, I think in his YouTube video, that he became a manager at 12 when he took his local school team and they won the state championship, I think in Australia, which for me just proves he's always breathed and lived football and that he's always had an interest in tactical and how he sets up his team. And he's a clear leader. everything I've seen, he stands for attacking football. He's not going to change for anyone. And you're either on board or you're not coming with him and you're going to be out of the club. And I feel like Spurs fans need someone they can get behind. And Ange Postecoglou seems like the man that is going to get me excited about going to Tottenham and watching good football. For me, I'm just excited to see what he does. And I'm going to be interested to see what personnel he brings in that's going to fit his style of football.
Yeah, same here, mate. Same. Dave, I want to let you in on this one. I mean, I think you might have a little bit of a different take. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Like, is there any scenario where you see Ange doing something outside of the box, or are we going to be expecting to see what we think we're going to see?
Look, I think there's two formations you're looking at. You're looking at the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1 that he played with Australia when he was manager of them. He played that 4-2-3-1 system. So, in effect, it could be either of them. I'm guessing if you're bringing in Maddison, potentially the 4-2-3-1. But this is the good thing about Ange Postecoglou, is the flexibility. Sean, he speaks about that midfield, you know, something like he can play 2 6s and 1 10. He can play a 6 and 8 and a 10. He can play 1 6 and 2 8s. In terms of defensing, how he mix it up, if you go back and look what he done at Celtic, for the first season, he sort of used the number 6 to sit in front of the back, the 2 centre-backs while the full-backs went forward to create a tree at the back when Celtic were on the attack. But then he adapted it this year. And whatever side the ball is, he gets that opposite full-back to come in with the 2 central defenders to make a back three, a bit like what Guardiola or Klopp have done at Liverpool. So he does adapt, and he does have little tweaks inside his formation that he does make. And of course, any good manager going forward will always spot the weaknesses of the teams and try to capitalize on them. But I think ultimately the way he approaches the game, which is I think what he's trying to get across, remains the same. Relentless. Everyone's constantly involved. Make sure you're working hard in and out of possession, making sure you're pressing teams, making sure we're playing possession-based football and not just panicking and hoofing it long, making sure you're trying to create chances. All of that stays the same. But for different games, for each opponent, there will be little tweaks in the way we defend and little tweaks in the way we go forward that ultimately Ange makes that helps him. And look, you don't get to Ange Postecoglou's age without being able to adapt to football from when he first started managing to now. So for me, I think Ange is a very, very shrewd manager, Sean, very shrewd, and he won't take any passengers. And I think that'll be set out from the first minute in preseason. So I think you'll either see players there, you'll see players very quickly either step up or want to force moves out of here. But ultimately, Ange Postecoglou he's not tactically naive like a lot of people say. He does make tweaks to be able to suit his system or to be able to make it work in certain games. So that interview as well, I think, was it was done with an Australian sports channel last year, or maybe last year or sometimes this year, when he was as Celtic manager, and they asked him about the tactics and stuff. But it's like even the defensive tweaks. It's very similar to
over, right,
but also, Sean, going forward, he has options. He can play the inverted fullback system like he likes to use, where the fullbacks run inside. Or he can get the fullbacks to stay outside and get your 2 wingers to be more or less inside forwards or inverted wingers. So he has a number of options that he can actually do within that system, and he's not stupid. If something's not working, okay, the fundamentals and the principles in the game won't change, but he will make little tactical tweaks here or there.
100%, mate. And you know what? Like, I couldn't agree more. I want to pivot the conversation now into away from like theoretical, hypothetical kind of, how's he going to handle? Let's get into the specifics of what he needs to be able to implement his stuff. So we're going to go into some of the transfer window stories and some of the realities that are coming this year. Before we get into it, guys, there's about 700 people watching live. Absolutely insane Sunday night. Really appreciate it. Please make sure you smash the like button for me. I just saw a comment saying there's 700 people watching and there's 150 likes. I haven't even seen how many likes there are, but whatever there are, we can surely do more. Can we get to 200, 250, whatever it is? Help a brother out, help out the channel. Really appreciate it. Whilst you're at it, make sure you are clicking the link in the title beneath or above you, however you're watching it. You can click on the link and it will take you not away from the show, but it will open up another tab and you'll see the Irish Hotspur and you'll see Spurs related. Really need everybody here to help out these 2 channels if they haven't already, as much as you're helping me out. I really, really appreciate all of your support and attention that you're giving to the channel tonight. Right, guys, I want to move into a couple of things, right? So let's get into the transfer side of things. How is it that we're going to get Postecoglou what he needs to handle it? first and foremost, I want to talk about the back line. In fact, no, I'm going to skip the back line. I'm going to come back to the back line. I want to talk about this. The Asian Cup is happening in this season, right? I think it's around January or December time. Sonny's out of here for a month. It's going to set the similar sort of impact as like the African Cup of Nations. I personally think that Sonny is going to have, if he's fully fit, I think he is going to suit the Postecoglou system far better than he suited the Conte system of 22-23. I think that if he stays fit and motivated and he's available, I think you're going to see Sonny back to his best next season. I know a lot of people don't think so. A lot of people see, as soon as you see the decline, one seasonal decline of a player that hits 30 that relies on their pace, they think that's it, it's game over. I don't subscribe to that. I think his decline last season was for other things. However, I do want to point out that he is going to be missing. If he stays fit, he's going to be missing for a period of time. On that basis, I want you guys to tell me, first of all, how confident are you in Sonny for the season? And secondly, if he's not going to be here for a prolonged period of time, how important is it that Tottenham find someone that is not just a bit part replacement for him, like a B-Tech version, but someone that can step up, step in, and can recreate the value that's going to be lost when he goes over to the Asian Cup? I'll start with Jack on this one, then I'll come to Dave, and then I'll come to James after that.
So, yeah, regarding Sonny, I totally agree. I really believe he's going to thrive this year. I actually think last time, Sean, we were on the channel together, we spoke about maybe Perisic operating that left-hand side space more, which meant Sonny didn't have as much space to operate in. And I feel like a Postecoglou winger, they really do get wide, and the fullbacks come inside a bit more. So it's going to create more width. And really, we know that's what Son loves. He needs space to drive into. He needs to have that confidence, a few more touches on the ball to be able to create that shot, to be able to finesse one into the top corner or create space for Harry Kane. And I feel like he really needs a big year. And Sonny's always got my full backing. I think he's a world-class player. I really do. And like you say, he is going to be going to the Asian Games, I think it is, or Asian Cup, and he's probably going to miss 7 games. So we need a ready-made replacement, someone with real quality, but I think someone who's youth, who's willing to learn and get the tactical discipline that is necessary to play in the Postecoglou system. Just before we come on here, I actually identified 2 wingers. Someone maybe like a Karim Adeyemi from Dortmund, I think operates well on the left-hand side, very good one-on-one. This is a bit of a controversial take. I've had a few of those before.
Sorry, Jack, quickly. What's Adeyemi's availability and his I've heard his name, I've looked at him, but I don't know much about him. What's his valuation and likely?
I think he cost about 40-50 million pounds from Dortmund. They have him in a high regard, but he's been a bit, he's a very good player. But for me, we know Dortmund, they sell at the right price, and I feel like there's going to be a lot more suitors maybe coming in a couple of years. And I think James Lawrence Alcott did a video on him and said that he would be someone who would fit in with Spurs perfectly. We need to act quick. Son's getting older. If we can get players of his caliber, let's bring him in. Have someone to compete with him. And we need someone who's going to drive with the space, someone who's good one-on-one, and someone young, willing to learn. And I feel like Karim Adeyemi would be perfect for that role if we can bring him in.
Would he come in just quickly? I'll come back to you on this one before I move up to Dave. Would you think that Adeyemi would come in as a player that would be in rotation for the time being, or I'll even extend it? Would you go as far as to think, mate, is it time to cash in on Sonny? You're talking about Dortmund always knowing the right time to cash in. There's got to be a time to cash in on Sonny. As a fan, maybe Daniel Levy would think differently, but how do you feel about the idea of maybe cashing in on Sonny and then going big on the future of our left wing spot?
I think that maybe that would be a bit naive. Sometimes you don't know what you've got until it's lost. And I think that would be the case with Son. I think he's such a great player, and I feel like he wants to be at Spurs. Why would you ship him off? He's got all the quality. I feel like we need to push the boat out, bring in someone of real caliber and quality to compete with him and have them working off each other. Son has been in the Premier League for ages now, and to have his quality and someone who plays in a similar role to learn off will be really valuable to Tottenham's future. So for me, spend the extra money. You've got a young player there that might be willing to come to the Premier League and try a new challenge. It's worth having him learn off the likes of Sonny rather than take that risk and get him to fit in straight away, because that's going to be hard coming into the new league and having a big price tag. We've seen that, like Chelsea spending lots of money on Madueke and these young wingers. They're not quite ready to come in the starting lineup and live up to that expectation straight away. So for me, learn off the best wingers, and Sonny's right.
All right. Love that. Love that. Dave, I'll come to you, mate. Same sort of question, buddy. Sonny, first of all, his absence this year rather, is going to be impactful. Jack's saying it's 7 games. You know, how important is it for us, for Daniel Levy to focus and save some budget to get someone who can step in? Because at the moment, I think we have Brian Hill. It's open whether or not he even wants to come back. You know, he's a European trophy winner. Maybe he doesn't want to come back and sit on the bench. What's your thoughts on the best way to handle this kind of left inside forward role that we have to delicately figure out?
Yeah, I hear you. Look, for me, I don't think it'd be a problem for Sonny under Ange Postecoglou's team. I think, look, he came out and said he was carrying an injury for a large part of the season. Also had the cheekbone injury that he's had as well. So he sort of had a season where he got battered and bruised. When you actually look back on some of the games last year, you can maybe see it now that it's being highlighted. Look at the amount of times he was getting on the ball, trying to get turned. He just wasn't the same player for quite some time. He ended up losing the ball. But also, if you go back and look at some of the games, you'd have Kulu and Kane that would press, but often they're not. Someone would be sort of in no man's land on that press, and that ball would come down the left-hand side. And that's where a lot of our problems came from. That left-hand side was atrocious last year because there was no one up there getting pressure, stopping it from coming down that side. However, with that injury now being operated on, etc., I think you'll see someone get back to his best. If you want me to be honest, now that I'm thinking, I think he'll leave it. I think he'll be good regardless in Ange's system, but I think if you bring in a James Maddison, someone of that ilk, I think you'll see an even better Son, because not only then, because without Maddison, you're looking at getting the ball to Son's feet, Son doing a bit of magic on his own. Whereas if you bring in someone like a James Maddison, it changes Son's game up a bit because you can get the ball to his feet and he can still do that. But then you can get him running in behind with someone like Maddison finding him. So it brings a new dimension to Sonny's game and makes him even more trickier to mark. So I actually feel you'll get a much more improved Sonny in the Ange Postecoglou team. And also, I think you'll see him press like a blue-ass fly. Systems, managers, etc., tactics, Son has never had a problem with it. He's always fitted in. You know, never ever had a problem with it, unlike some of the money fuckers that we have in our team who cry because things don't exactly suit them. Son's not one of them. So I have no problem with him in terms of the system. But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a bit of a winter break in January this season, though? Isn't there a period there where I think you've got no Premier League games? You might have an FA Cup game in there. So...
Really?
Look, you might, I think if you go back and look at the fixtures, there's a bit of a period there in January where there's not so many league games. I think you might get an FA Cup game put in there. So I'm not sure exactly how many games he's going to miss, but of course it is going to be a huge miss. But look, if you want to just get by, you've got options. You've got Gill, you've got Richarlison, you can push Kulu over there and push Barrow onto the right, etc. You do sort of have options. But that's the biggest problem at Tottenham Hotspur. We're sick of make doing. So, for me, go and get Son's understudy. Go and find that and get him in here because, it's not going to be too much longer before Son ends up in a decline like Hugo Lloris. And the last thing you want is not having someone good enough on that side. So get them in now. Get them challenging Sonny. I think Spurs maybe know they need something like that as well because you've seen the links with Harvey Barnes there earlier on. Since then, they've sort of dropped a little. But I do think Spurs know they need to get someone. But for me, I think they're trying to do it in order. I think they're going to go, goalkeeper, back line, then into the midfield, and then look at the forward line overall. Because, look, if we're being brutally honest, scoring goals at Tottenham Hotspur is never a problem. Whether you've had Son injured or not being at his best like you've seen last season, we still score goals. When Kane was carrying his injuries, we still score goals. So scoring goals at Tottenham is not our issue. Where we will feel the pinch is if we can see goals and we don't have the same attacking output that we would have with Sonny. So for me, I have no problems. As long as you increase that back line, I think you'll get by with that Sonny period.
Sorry, fellas, am I still with you? I just dropped out for the last bit.
Yeah, we can eat.
Okay. So last question, Dave. I know you've got to go. In a few minutes, mate. So I was going to stick with you for the last point. If you're talking about the kind of get someone in to help to deputise for Sonny to learn from, who is that guy? Is it Harvey Barnes? Is it someone like an Andreas Skov-Olsen? Is it someone like a Gonçalves is it like a big fella like a Gonçalves that can play on the left that could even do the Maddison role if Maddison goes elsewhere? Who is your ideal, the guy that can predominantly play left but maybe has to play other places to justify the valuation? If it's not Harvey Barnes, who is it?
Look, I think we probably will be looking in and around the homegrown for that area. You could have a Harvey Barnes. Maybe you could get go and get a Bowen off West Ham. Maybe you could get him to play out there and cut inside on his right foot. Who else have you got? Pedro Gonçalves, I absolutely love at Tottenham. He can play as a cam and play out on the left. So again, that sort of give you options there. So you look, Pedro Gonçalves would be my dream sign, and I'd absolutely love him to come in here. Scores goals, assist goal, good passing range, clever feet, can take people on, can spray it, drop it in over the top. He does absolutely everything. He would be my ideal signing. But look, with Ange Postecoglou in the door, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a player that maybe we don't know. There was a report out there over the weekend that potentially we're looking at, I think, 2 Celtic players. Be very interested to see who they are. Maybe you could bring in Jota, who was over there at Celtic, who played a lot on the left. Not a bad little player. Some people would be looking at Kyogo, but with the Asian Cups coming up, you'd likely say he's probably going out there as well, along with Maeda from Celtic. So I'm not sure you're going to see us sign a player from Asia to back Sonny up on that side. So that probably rules out someone like Kamada as well. So it'll be interesting to see who Tottenham go and get.
Do you think that, just a quick one, do you reckon maybe someone like Eze from Crystal Palace could come in? Because I've seen a lot of Spurs fans, and myself included, that I'd love to see him playing that attacking 8, that 10 role. But as we know, he's got fantastic one-on-one ability and he loves driving with the ball. And I feel like someone like Maddison and Eze interchanging in between the 10 in the winging position, as they both can play in both positions, I feel like that could work really well and it would add a lot of creativity.
If we were Man City, yeah, but the reality is, we've probably got about, 150 million max. Palace ain't letting Eze go for anything less than 50 million, same as Mark Guehi. That's why we're not going to get him this summer. Simply, they're just going to ask for too much money. And when you've got them, when clubs know that their players meet the homegrown quota and they're in demand, that automatically puts about 20 million levy on top of it anyway, because they know a lot of these clubs don't bother producing academy prospects throughout. So they sort of capitalize on that by charging top dollar for their players. So if you're talking about getting Maddison in, the money we spent on Vicario, a couple of centre-backs, and maybe another winger, they're not going to put that outlay on someone like Eze. It's just not going to happen. As much as I would love it to happen, Eze done brilliant for England the other night as well. He's had a very good rise since his time at, QPR or Reading, I think it was one of them, maybe both of them. But, I just don't see Tottenham outlaying that money, especially when you're probably going to outlay about 30 to 40 million on a brilliant centre-back, probably about another 20 million on another one of them. Potentially, you might see a left or right back come in here and a James Maddison. I just don't see where Tottenham are going to find that money from. We can sit here and moan and cry all we want, saying they're the third highest, profiting sports club in the world. They've got all this money. Joe Lewis, upped his value by 800 million last season and everything else. But the reality is, they're just not going to put that money in. So there's no point in sitting here moaning or crying about it anymore about them putting that money in. They're just not going to do it. So we know what way we have to operate. And I think that's why it takes Eze, Guehi, people like that off our transfer list.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've been playing too much career mode, but it does get me excited. I'm excited about Tottenham playing. I feel like let's get everyone. Why not? But no, I agree. The English tax will be too much. And I think I really like both players. And I'd be interested to see what Spurs fans would prefer out of Eze and Maddison, because I think they're 2 fantastic players.
The reason why we're going for Maddison is...
Sorry, Dave, carry on, mate.
I was just going to say, just quickly, the reason why we're going for James Maddison is because he's got 1 year left on his contract. If he didn't have 1 year left on his contract, we would not be in the market for him. Make no mistake about that. It's an opportunity that's arisen that we've kept an eye on, so that's why we're going for him. If Eze had 1 year left on his contract, you'd probably see Tottenham go for him if it was the other way around. But, that's the only reason why we're going for someone like James Maddison. I think when you look at the rest, maybe of some of the English quota that needs to be filled, I think you're looking at our academy with the golden generation of some of the youth players coming through, or else looking at someone like that Alex Scott guy or someone like that to bring in to beef up that sort of core group of English players, because otherwise it's just going to cost you a fortune. So, I think that's why maybe so you might see like an Alex Scott and that come in here. And then you also look at some of the recruitment we've been doing. We brought in Herbie James from the City Academy. We brought in a centre-back from Ipswich who's very highly rated. And I think that's the plan going forward, that instead of outlaying such massive money on English talents, because, look, they know some of the English players we've got in our squad, they're the worst of them all out there, especially at Premier League level. So they have to find another way to counteract it so that they don't keep spending 50, 60, 70 million every single year. And that's why you're seeing our academy being flooded with a whole host of English talent. But look, I do have to go. One thing I will say just quickly before I go, and I'll leave you on this, and it's something that me and you were speaking about before we went live, Jack, on that. It does look like Tottenham are going for very, very technical players, which they do need for Ange Postecoglou's system, which is a plus. So how far they go in terms of bringing in players to really help Ange Postecoglou and give him all the options he needs, who knows? But it is a plus that we're getting technical players in here, because that's been half our problem down the last few years. So just not having technically quality players that can just do the basics, control the ball and shift it on. So that's been our biggest problem. But look, I've been the Irish Hotspur. Hope you've enjoyed my motor mouth for the last 45 minutes. That's me out of here. Make sure you keep giving Shawnee the support. Let's get Shawnee to 10K, by the way. Very generous at the start, giving us numbers to pick from. Let's get Shawnee to 10K tonight. A big up to you two Spurs-related boys. And I'll speak to you all soon. And if you love me, subscribe to me.
See you, mate.
See you, boys.
Love you, Dave.
Yeah, mate.
Thanks, mate.
For having me.
Guys, get over to the Irish Hotspur. The link, if you haven't, there's 700 people, 750 odd people watching. Amazing for a Sunday night. It's insane. If you haven't already, get over to the Irish Hotspur. The link is in the title. I think it's the title and the description. Amazing guy, amazing channel. Him and Jack are brilliant. Guys, we've got another Jack and we've got another James. James, I'm going to come to you, mate. Let me ask you this, my man. Like, how do you feel about the left forward spot? Like, I don't think that we've entirely uncovered it. I put a bit up there, a poll up there for Eze versus Maddison. We'll see what that turns out to be. But I want to know, how do you feel around Sonny? Do you think he's the right guy to take us forward for this year? At some point, we have to cash in on him. What about the guy who's going to take his place eventually? It's going to be big shoes to fill, big boots to fill. Where would you like us to go in that direction? And any particular names, maybe the ones that are out there, maybe the ones that we haven't heard about? Go where you want with it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm actually a bit gutted Dave's left, because I thought he wasn't big in Harvey Barnes up enough. I really do like Harvey Barnes as a player. I think he's fantastic. Obviously, Premier League proven. And in a poor Leicester side last year, I believe he got 13 or 14 Premier League goals. So that is a pretty good shift, considering Leicester were absolutely dreadful last season. Obviously more than Son, but we know Son had a bad season. In terms of keeping Son, I would definitely keep him for another season, and then obviously his contract runs out in, I believe, 2025. So if he's still not had a good season next season, then you look at moving him on potentially, as much as that hurts me to say, because I absolutely love Son. I think that would have to be the case to hold some sort of value back from him. We don't want to let him just go on a free, someone like that with such a commercial asset, as well as just being a phenomenal football player. Obviously, you've got to remember whoever he goes to is going to grow as a football club, because Son just brings in these millions of fans, which is incredible to see, and boosts the club's finances, if you think about it. So think of the shirt sales. It's not just the player you're getting in Son, it's the whole package, right? But I think give it another season, and I think he's
changed. James, like I understand. Listen, someone who has worked in finance his entire life. Like I've taken so much heat from Tottenham fans for having opinions that are based on the financial incentives of decisions, right? Like, Daniel Levy won't do this because it's commercially viable to keep Sonny, and I get it. That's why I think it would take a hell of a lot of money to price Daniel Levy away, or put Daniel Levy in a kind of Goldilocks zone where it's worth taking the punt. But as a fan, are you confident that last season was a blip for Sonny, and that he was playing injured like he said he was, and that also maybe Perisic, I think Jack alluded to it, like that Perisic, the involvement there maybe disrupted him a little bit, and that next season in a better formation, that with a tactical kind of like ingenuity of Postecoglou, I personally think that Sonny's going to benefit from that. Are you worried that, because a lot of people were saying once you go past 30 and you're a player that relies on pace, it's downhill. Are you? Which camp are you in? Was it a blip for Sonny, or was it the starting point of an inevitable downturn of a player that relies on pace that is losing his yard?
Yeah. Do you want me to? Obviously, I'll be very honest here. I think that it's not the latter in terms of it's the start of his downward spiral in terms of he's 30 now, so suddenly he's going to be an awful football player in 2-3 years. I genuinely do believe the injury thing. And I believe he was playing with an injury, because you don't just suddenly lose that much pace in the space of a season. He wasn't beating his man last season at all. I'd love to know the stat between 2 seasons ago and this season about how many players he beat on that left channel, because it wasn't very many. Every time he got the ball, he almost looked a bit scared to run into the space. He looked a bit scared. He almost passed it sideways or tried to run round the defence rather than take them on like he used to. So I genuinely believe he was injured. I fully believe that. But I was a bit disappointed he didn't just go and have his surgery and let Danjuma or another player come in. But I think with the sports science of this day and age, you don't just suddenly become poor when you hit 30, and you don't suddenly go on a downward spiral. You look at, I know it's completely different, but look at players like Cristiano Ronaldo playing 35 years old in Champions League semi-finals for Juventus. Just absolutely phenomenal. His physical fitness is beyond belief, right? But I believe that Heung-min Son is in pretty good shape as well. So I genuinely wouldn't worry about the fact that he's suddenly going to tail off. I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's ever going to be 2017, 2018, 2019 levels of Heung-min Son, but I think you're going to see him get back to the levels he was the season before last, where he was getting golden boots, potentially not 24 goals this time, but I could really see him getting 15 to 20 goals next season.
What was the specific stat that you wanted to compare one season from the last? I've got up his successful last season versus the season before.
Yeah, successful take-ons. Yeah.
Take-ons, here we go. So in 2022 versus, let me see. Can you see this? Can everyone see it on the screen?
Yeah.
So take-ons attempted 2020. So this is last season. He attempted 83. He was successful with 33. His successful percentage was 40%, and he was tackled 40% of the time, which is
really
40
bad,
times
by the way.
50%. And then the season before in 2021-22, he attempted 92. He was successful with 51, which is 55%.
There you go.
Tackled 40 times. That tells you the story you want, right? You can go deeper.
That's exactly it. And I'm not surprised by that. You know, he's had 15 to 20% better success the season before last. You don't just suddenly, have 20 less take-ons pretty much in one season. He's playing with an injury 100%.
It's not just the take-ons, mate. Even just his carries with the ball. Look at the difference here. There's 25, 22, 23% differences here.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything what I was saying, really.
The reason why, though, you're absolutely spot on. But the reason why is the question I'd like to know. Is it because of the impact of Perisic coming in, invading his space? Is it because Conte asked him to play a certain way? Was it because he was playing injured, or was it because none of those things were really relevant? But he just lost confidence, and maybe people worked him out. Because I think that there is a consequence of being predictable. I worried last season. I saw Decky. I said it about Sonny 2 seasons ago. I was like, dude, if you're always going to tuck in on your right, if you're always going to pull the back on the right hand side, you're going to get found out. It becomes predictable. The person who plays right back, all they have to do is show you half a yard onto the outside, right? They just step in, block that kind of step across, and go from there. And Sonny adapted a little bit, but not measurably in my mind. I think the same thing is probably occurring with Decky on the right. He's so much more confident and comfortable, always taking it on the left foot and cutting inside, doing the inversion. And to me, predictability is a big problem, because the other teams are trained every week. Oh, you got Tottenham coming up. Well, if you're the left back for whoever, what's going to happen when Kulusevski gets the ball. He's going to try and shoulder you. He's going to put his elbow out. He's going to try and body you out the way, but he's ultimately going to pull back in on the left-hand side and look for space that way. Sonny does the same thing. And so to me, I just wonder whether or not those stats that you said it in like you suspected, and you were right. The stats hold up. But why are those numbers the way they are? Is it because of injuries? Is it because of predictability? Is it because of formation tactics? Or is it because of something else? That to me is the $1 million question, James.
I know it's a bit of a cop-out answer, and I'll spin this to Jack in a minute, because I'm sure he wants to say something on this. But I genuinely believe it's a little bit of the injury thing, and you can tell he just didn't look sharp. he did look like I said it most of the season, didn't I, Jack? He genuinely looked like he was injured. Something was going on. I thought it was something to do with maybe I'm pretty sure he got COVID again at some point, and we know how much that can mess up a player's fitness. But he genuinely looked exhausted, like he couldn't take on a player. But also, I think you're right, Sean. I think the tactics became dry under Conte. I think the teams just predicted that the players were going to cut in. You know, Sonny's going to cut in on his right, and Kulu was going to cut in on come in on his left. But I also don't think like Son is sort of known for coming more central as well, right? And you never really saw that. He was sort of stranded out wide. And Dave mentioned it earlier. When we were tracking back, he sort of looked like a lost sheep in the crowd. He didn't really look like he was part of that formation. And Conte's system really didn't work. The only time I saw Son playing with freedom was actually one of the games I was last at. Was Tottenham Leicester when he came off the bench and scored a hat-trick. He was running behind the defenders. He was calling for the ball and running behind the fullbacks. We didn't see a lot of that. He was sort of in the pocket of space between midfield and sort of Harry Kane at a diagonal where he was just lost and he wasn't really being useful in that situation. So we need to see Son come off the last defender more. We need to see him running around the back more. And I think that Ange system will fit him perfectly.
Yeah, love that, mate. Jack, do you have some no doubt some absolute smashing points to make on this one? Are you worried about the same thing that James is saying, right? So the stats look like Sonny just is being found out a little bit. Is that the case?
Yeah, definitely. I think the main thing for me is Sonny wasn't given the license to do what he's good at, and that's driving with the ball. That's peeling off the last shoulder of the defender, being unpredictable. That is what Heung-min Son is. He can go past you with his pace. He can find a nice pocket of space and drive him behind. And what I also think is a really good point that Dave alluded to earlier, if you're bringing in someone of the caliber of a James Maddison, you've also got two elite passers in Harry Kane and James Maddison now. That means Son can drive with the ball, but then he can also deliver balls into the box that Kane can get on the end of. Maddison can unpick a lock and find Son in behind. And I feel like Son's going to have the license to do what he wants more now. I think he was very restricted under Conte. He really favoured high attacking wing backs, and Perisic was always looking for the ball into the box. Son isn't that player who's going to get on the end of the cross, in my opinion. He's going to drive and look for a long shot. He's going to find intricate passes into Kane or Kulusevski. And I feel like Perisic adopted all of that space and it didn't allow Son to show what he's good at. And I really believe the Postecoglou system is going to suit him a lot more. He's going to have more space out wide, and he's also going to be able to have someone, hopefully, of the caliber of a James Maddison that can find him as well. A bit of variety, something different. I think positivity as well. The best form of defence is attack, and that's what Spurs are going to be doing. From what we know is we're always going to be on the front foot. We're going to have a high line. We're going to look to suffocate our opponents, and I think it's going to benefit Son a lot more.
100%, mate. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Guys, there's 600 people still watching, which is amazing. I want to ask you guys, I know I've been asking already, but I'm going to put the link in the chat there for Spurs related. All you got to do is literally hit that link. Just hit the tab, hit the link, go over there, smash the subscribe to these lovely boys and help them carry on with their amazing growth as well. Lads, I'm going to move on to the next question for you, which is the back four. We've been talking about all week on various channels the various links that will be going out there, right? Everyone knows at Tottenham we've got Vicario coming in all likelihood. His medical is set for tomorrow. I'll let you include your thoughts on Vicario if you have strong ones one way or the other. But for me, the back four is going to be massively important. I'm not convinced that Pedro Porro can play right back. I'm not convinced really about even Destiny Udoji's ability to play left back defensively. Both of them can do wonderful things going forward. Both of them, for me, have a lot of question marks about themselves defensively. But we know where we have to fix up, which is in the centre back spot. There's so many links going on right now. Unbelievable amount of links, and they're coming from credible sources like Romano, like Charlie Eccleshare, players like Tosin, players like Edmund Tapsoba, players like Mickey van der Ven, players like Clement Longley, players like Hiroki Ito. Hiroki Ito. Look, I'm going to let you go with this. I'll start with you, Jack, on this one, mate. The back four next season, how do you see it shaping up? Like, do you think that we need 2 centre-backs, 3 centre-backs, 1 centre-back? What do you realistically see us doing? You know, who do you want to see out of the club? I'll let you go where you want with it, mate, because it's such a broad topic. But ultimately, the links are there, credible links with credible players that I think will make us immensely better in the most important area of our pitch that we need to improve on. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on, you know, what your preference is on all those players, right side and left side of the centre-back spot.
For me, I think our defence is by far the weakest part of our squad. I think we can all agree. I think we conceded 63 goals last year. And for a Tottenham side that's looking to push into the top 4, and other teams were saying we're almost title challenges before the start of the window. So it proves that our defence is clearly not up to the standard. So for me, we need a complete reshuffle. I think we need to bring in a minimum of 2 centre-halves. I think the likes of Sanchez, even Tanganga. I think Dyer is probably not capable of playing a back line. I think Romero and maybe Longley, because Spurs are looking at a more data-driven approach, you can see he's willing to try those progressive passes. And I think that's what Postecoglou appreciates. If you've got a defender that is comfortable on the ball, willing to try and find the gaps in behind for the wingers like Son and Kulusevski to get into, punch the ball into the midfield. I think we've seen like the number 6 has to be confident on the ball. He has to bounce it off. He has to be able to drive with it. He like someone like maybe an Amrabat we've seen was so impressive in that Conference League final and in the World Cup. I feel like he would thrive in that role. We might even have a ready replacement in Basuma who could do well there. But I think we need someone who's confident, coming out of that back four, playing a high line, has the pace to be able to recover. Maybe someone like Van der Ven. I think we've all seen on Twitter how fast he was to be able to recover back. Someone who's also got the ability to play as a fullback. Yeah, and you said that the fullbacks we've got in Porro and Udogie, they may not be suitable for that back four. And having a player like we've seen with Ben White at Arsenal that can play centre back and fullback and do both jobs well could be a really strong point. And then you're almost paying 35 million for 2 players. And I feel like we definitely need to bring in someone like a Tapsoba.
You think Van der Ven can play left back and left sided centre back? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think he can play both sides. From all the research I've done, it seems like he's comfortable on both sides, and I feel like that's really important. Ben White, who impressed me at Brighton as a centre half, I think he's been fantastic. Really, I know we don't like to say that, but he's really thrived in that right back role this year as well. I'm not saying Van der Ven is going to be easy for him to do that as well, but it's nice to have options. It's nice to have variety. But to quickly close off my point, I would love to see someone of the calibre of Tapsoba come in. But I also think we need a young and upcoming centre half who's got a high ceiling like Van der Ven to come in alongside him. For me, I really like Schlotterbeck from Dortmund. It's almost like a Dortmund raid. I love all their players this season. I think they were unlucky not to win the title. Fantastic ball playing ability. If people love your stats, you can see if you go online and look him up. Green everywhere, loves to come out with the ball. I think he's got 0.16 assists per game. So he's always looking to play the ball in behind, almost similar to like a Jan Vertonghen when we played Dortmund and he did those fantastic left-fielded passes into the box, not afraid to spread the ball. But yeah, defence definitely needs restructuring this summer, and I'm looking forward to seeing who we bring in.
Jack, just quickly on that one, mate, before I come down to James and get his take. Lynch 616, what's happening, Lynchy? Hope you're okay, mate. He's saying, would you be okay with Longley as the backup on the left side if it means bringing in better quality elsewhere? And I'm not sure I'm going to run with what he's saying without knowing what his intentions are. Like, I guess what he's saying is, you know, if we've got a £150 million budget, let's say for argument's sake, and we've got to fill a goalkeeper, we need a backup for Romero, we need probably at least 1, if not 2, left-sided centre-backs. One of them should be left-footed. You also need a Maddison type. You need someone who can play. We've already spoken about the left side for Sonny. Maybe you need someone who can play on the right as well. Like you don't want to spread yourself too thin to the point where you're spending £20 million on each of your players, because then you're not levelling up, right? You're just replacing like for like. So if you are limited by budget, which Tottenham always are, then you're probably going to need to have, like, if you want to go out and pay 40, 50 for a Tapsoba, then you're also going to need to have a 5 or 10 for someone else, right? Because that's the way that you make your budgets work. So would you be okay with Longley coming in as being the backup to a mainstay, like a statement signing left-sided centre-back, whether that's Tapsoba? I don't know if you think of Van der Ven as a statement signing, I know Laporte has turned us down, but you understand what I mean. Like, are you okay with Longley if it means you get someone better who can come in first team role?
I think it's really interesting. I think that if we bring in someone of the quality of maybe a Pau Torres or a Tapsoba, who, from everything I've seen, would fit into this new system perfectly, I wouldn't be totally against it. My only worry is that we're doing what we did last summer. We didn't get our top choice, so we went for the cheaper option. But Sean, I think your videos last year in the transfer window were excellent, and we all saw that Longley actually had fantastic underlying stats, and he was playing in a possession-based Barcelona team, and I think he was at Sevilla before, and he was playing really well. He has fantastic ball playing ability, and he's composed on the ball. So maybe he can step up to the plate. He's not the slowest player in the Premier League. He definitely hasn't had the best start in a Spurs shirt, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, if we can get him on a cut price deal, he's played possession-based football before, and he likes to play out from the back. He's not afraid to make game-changing passing. Maybe he does deserve an opportunity. So for me, as long as we're getting in a statement signing, then I'm not fully against it. Because like you say, Sean, you can't change everything in one summer. If you want to sign players of the quality of a Maddison and a Tapsoba, it's not Football Manager. I know I said I wanted to say a Maddison earlier, but you've got to be smart with these signings. So for a cut price deal, Longley, I wouldn't be totally against it.
All right. Yeah. I kind of agree with you. Like, grip, taking the kind of bit between my teeth. I don't particularly think that Longley suits the system in any way, shape, or form. I'd much rather Tottenham went and found themselves a Hiroki Ito, who probably won't cost too much more, that can come in and do the role of a Longley, the backup. That's how I would go. But listen, I don't know whether I think Ito might be going to Napoli. James, same question to you, mate. Like, how do you see in your let's talk dream world back four, realistic back four, and why? Do you see Porro figuring and of course include the wing backs into that? Like, if do you think that Emerson's going to be a mainstay in the summer, in the season? How do you see the back four lining up in the dream world and in the realism in your mind?
Yeah, it's funny you asked me that question and you mentioned an £150 million budget, because literally 10 minutes before we were live on this, myself and Jack were doing a 150 million ideal transfer budget video. So we've already got your answers, Sean. And that is just very quickly on Longley, before I forget. I think it might be great to get him in for £6 to £8 million or whatever, but let's not forget about the wage that he would want. Apparently, he was on about 150 to 180k at Barcelona. So he'd have to take a cut to be a backup. We wouldn't be paying £150,000 a week for a backup left centre-back, would we? Okay, it's great that he might be on the cheap and Barcelona might want to get him off their books, but you've got to remember the wage part of this as well. I wouldn't say Levy would be happy to pay 150k a week for Clement Longley if he's not going to be part of the starting 11. So you've got to also think about that as well. And just very quickly, my opinion on that, I think it's great, but we have to get our first choice first. Like, if we get to a situation where Clement Longley is coming in as our left centre back, I think I'm gonna cry my eyes out for a week. But in terms of my ideal back line, Sean, I think that we are going to see more Emerson Royale. Even though I love Pedro Porro and he was fantastic at contributing last season at the end in terms of assists and goals, I just don't think he's going to be a right back in that situation, in that formation. I think he could be more like a right winger, a backup right winger, almost filling in the Lucas role that we're obviously going to lose. But also in terms of my back four, I think Udogie obviously comes straight in as the left back. And then right centre back, we've got Romero. Right back, I think we're going to see more of Emerson, like I said, because I believe he is better defensively than Porro. And then left centre back, I genuinely want Edmund Tapsoba. I think he's fantastic. I think if you look at his top percentiles, his successful progressions with the ball is in the top 90-something%. So we need a centre back that's going to be aggressive when bringing the ball forward, along with Romero. Obviously, my slight concern on that is if they're both playing quite a high line, then we could be exposed at the back. But I think Andrew's system really does play the centre backs quite high up, and that's what he's going to want. And I think that's why he's one of our top targets, is because he is that forward-thinking, progressive centre back. And I think also Tapsoba can play left-sided centre back and right-sided centre back. So you fill two boxes there, don't you? You fill the Davinson Sanchez, who comes off as a right centre back, and you fill the starting left centre back in a back four. So my back four would be Udogie, Tapsoba, Romero, and Emerson. I'm still not completely sold on Emerson. And the reason why is I think he's come on leaps and bounds last season, especially in those, period of games where he was up there with the man of the match, right? But I still have my slight concerns over him in terms of being competent and consistent. I could see him falling into a bracket where we don't start hating him, but we start question marking his mistakes in games, because we're going to hopefully get rid of Dyer. We're going to hopefully get rid of Sessegnon. And these are the players that make individual mistakes. Davinson Sanchez. There's going to be a scapegoat, if you like, where there's going to be mistakes in that team week in, week out. And I can see Emerson Royale then being the spotlight, because Emerson Royale's kind of been in the background while we've been almost slaughtering Dyer, Sessegnon, Sanchez, Winks when they were playing. And then Emerson Royale is suddenly going to be the player that's probably making more mistakes than most. And suddenly you're thinking the fans could turn on that quickly.
You know what? I hear what you're saying, James. I do hear what you're saying, mate. But I'd say that for me, I think that defensively, I don't think there's a better player in our team that's more astute defensively, aerially. I think that he offers so much security, getting rid of the crosses to the back post that come from the opposition's right side down our left. I think that defensively, Emerson is... I think he's the best that we have in that spot. Well, it's not even a question in that particular spot. But I also think that defensively, he is going to... we bought him as a right back. We asked him last season to play as a right wing back. I think he's going back to his traits. I think the guy will have a really good season. I hear what you're saying. I actually would be surprised. Here's my kind of crazy take for the evening. I think you're saying that like Emerson got away with it a little bit because everyone was angry with Dyer or Lloris or whoever. Yeah. I would say that the person who really got away with it last season was Romero. I think he got away with murder with his mistakes. No one was focusing on him because everyone saw the frequency of Dyer doing it or Sanchez doing it or Longley doing it or Davies or whoever else. I think the biggest pressure next year defensively is on Romero. He needs to step up and earn this title of being the Rolls Royce that everyone thought he is or thinks he is, because I haven't seen it. I think he's a bit of a lunatic who has had, I don't know, half of one great season in the first year he was here, and the other half of that season he was injured. And I think last season I thought he was either injured or was ultimately... How do I say this? People challenge Decky, right? I've heard a lot of content creators that say, well, people that think that Decky's amazing, what? Because you saw 3 months of him in his first season, the 21-22 season. He came in and he hit the ground running and he absolutely was phenomenal. But then this season was terrible for Decky. So a lot of people who say, I've only seen a fraction of the time of him playing well as I have him underperforming. I think you can make the exact same argument for Romero. I'm not saying that either of them are bad players. I think both of them are very good players and should be a massive part of our squad and have high expectations of them. However, I think that I'm not gonna excuse like this argument of like, oh, you can't criticize Romero because look who he's playing next to. I think that's a nonsense argument, especially when half of the mistakes he made were because he just decided to dive in like a lunatic. I think this season coming it's a gauntlet for Romero. I think he has to prove himself. Otherwise, I'm not entirely sure if he's the Rolls Royce that we think he is. Sorry, guys, I've ranted there for 2 minutes.
No. Sean, sorry, James, I was just going to quickly say, I think Romero is a fantastic player, but he definitely got away with a lot there. Romero got sent off in the 78th minute of a last 16 game, only being 1-0 down for a ridiculous challenge just to try and prove that he is this tough guy that we all know. And that was not needed. We were in the game. Yes, we weren't playing good football. I was there, but you could tell Tottenham started creating a few more chances. And it just gets sent off, and then there's nothing to play for. We then sent on a centre-half and took off a forward. And decisions like that ruin football games. And as much as I like Romero, I really do, I think he's a Rolls-Royce of defender and has the capability to do that. But when you are really scapegoating the likes of Emerson Royale, like what you were saying, Sean, earlier is, I agree. I actually think he could thrive in a Postecoglou system. When I did my ideal starting 11 with James, I think Sam Chippett came on the channel, I actually said that I expect Emerson to start because he's very defensively astute. When you see his best games in the Tottenham shirt, they're against the likes of Man City, Liverpool, these high-pressing teams that come at you. And that requires a lot of defending. And Emerson thrived in those games. So I believe he does deserve an opportunity. I know I've gone on a rant now as well with 2 different points.
No, that's right. Rant on. That's what we do. When there's 3 of you, you can rant. Like when there's 3 people on the stream, you can rant and go on because there's always like, it's fine. There's plenty of time. When there's 4 or more, it becomes like you got to be conscious of making sure everyone's got a squeeze. But you can rant as much as you want, my man. Go for it.
One point.
James knows I like a rant. Go on, James.
One point I'd throw in on Christian Romero is, and again, I'm not trying to dig him out because I don't think he had a great season, and I think you're right. Sometimes he's far too rash. He dives in and leaves pockets in the defense for attackers to run through, right? And then unfortunately, when he does commit, we've got some absolute awful players covering him, and that's just the truth of the situation. If Romero goes forward, Eric Dyer is incompetent as a defender. I mean, you guys probably have already understood that I really don't like that guy. And the other thing is, you got to remember about Romero, this is the point I was going to make, is obviously the World Cup took up almost, 6 weeks, 2 months, and he was fully focused. Don't forget he went injured before that World Cup, and I don't think he was injured. I think he was saving himself for that World Cup, and he was fantastic 100%. In that World Cup. He was brilliant. Yeah. You know, if you remember in that final, a lot of plaudits go to the keeper of Argentina, Martinez, for that save. But actually, Romero put in a crucial header, which would have led to a rebound for that chance, and France would have won the World Cup. So obviously, that's individual examples. But Romero was fantastic at that World Cup. He pretty much played the whole lot at centre back. And I think a lot of his focus for those 2 to 3 months, because there's always a bit of a hangover of the World Cup, that was his focus. So I think when we see a Romero fully fit with no Europe, no World Cup, I think he'll be back to what he was when he first came in, when we were all calling him a Rolls Royce. So I'd give him this season, and really, I think he will be back to his best and focused in Tottenham mode.
Do you, just quickly, James, just on that, before we move on to the next topic, do you actually believe that he cares about Tottenham? Do you think that he wants to be here? Because there is an argument that's put out there by certain content creators that he doesn't. Like you said, he is country over club. A lot of Argentinians appear to be that way. But specifically with him, does he really give 2 hoots about Tottenham?
I don't think he's a Harry Kane in terms of the passion for Tottenham, but I genuinely believe he is so passionate for when he's playing football. He's so passionate, you know, he almost gets wound up by it, right? In terms of, you know, last season, I pick up an example where he just ran up the pitch and took out Haaland. Spurs fans love that, and they will back that at any point, whether he's, you know, wearing his heart on his sleeve, like an Eric Lamela used to do, right? I don't think he's ever going to be like that. But I mean, Eric Lamela, right? He's a similar kind of player in terms of passion, aggression, getting yellow cards every 5 seconds. But Spurs fans loved Lamela, even though his stats didn't show that he was actually a top player. And I would argue he should have gone 3 years before he did. You need players like that. You need players that are going to get the crowd going.
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. They did love Lamela. Maybe not because of his footballing, but because of his shithousery, right?
Exactly.
And I think probably you make the same argument for Richarlison. I think a lot of Tottenham fans will probably fall in love with Richarlison, not because he's a good player. For me personally, I think Richarlison is the worst 60 million quid that anyone could ever have spent. Like, he's up there with Richarlison. Oh, we won't. That's for another conversation. Let's not go there. Where I do go with you guys is to the next conversation that, to me, is about the transfer window generally. We've got probably 20 minutes left. I want to talk to you guys. I'm going to start with you, James, on this one, mate.
Go on.
Transfer window. how do I shape this? We need a squad of 25, right? This is going to be the first transfer window of 8 or 7, ideally under the Postecoglou system. There's a hell of a lot of transformation that's going to need to be taken place. A hell of a lot of patience that's going to need to be offered. But for me, I worry. I lose sleep a little bit over this, about whether or not Tottenham fans are going to turn and lose patience immediately if the first 2 or 3 games of the season go badly. And I think they probably will. Like Brentford away, Man United at home. I'm not sure who's the third game, but you look at Postecoglou's track record. It takes time to get going before the players learn his system. You've got a whole bunch of new players that are going to be coming in, a whole bunch of old players that haven't played his style. It's going to be chaotic. What will, I think, lend him and lend Tottenham, lend Daniel Levy patience more than anything else is a good window. So what I need from you guys right now is, what does a good window look like? And we're going to talk in reality. Let us start. Well, James, we're going to start with you. I want you to tell me what your ideal starting 11 looks like on August the 19th or whenever the first game of the season is, right? Vicario in goal, and then tell me who's his replacement. Then you tell me who's the right back, and then tell me his replacement. Tell me who the centre backs are. I want you to pick 22 players for me. 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, go where you want. That's what I want to hear from you right now. What does a good window look like this summer?
Got it. So very quickly, before I give you the full 11, Alistair Gold came out with an article the other day and said that Spurs' wish list, or Ange's wish list, included 2 centre-back signings. One you would have thought would be the left centre-back, and one you would have thought would have been the backup. He also said that Spurs are looking at a number 10, 100%. So you're automatically going Maddison, maybe Alex Scott if something goes wrong as a backup. And then the other one was a young winger was another one. So maybe does that hint that Brian Hill isn't in the plans? Not too sure. I'll let you guys make your assumptions on that. And then the other one was it it's the goalkeeper, which we've done, right? So there's the 5 signings, the ideal signings for Ange. Now we've got one of them done. So we know that Vicario's in goal. I think Udogie is going to come back as left back 100%. I think that's the plan. I don't want to see Sessegnon at all. And Perisic.
Who plays back up to Udogie? Ben Davies?
So I think that it will be Perisic, but I am not a Perisic fan, and I haven't got. Yeah. I think, Perisic left wing back, but obviously we're playing the 4 at the back now. So people will be going, oh, yeah, well, Perisic can do a job at left back. I don't want to see that. That's what I'm trying to say. I think the backup can't be Sessegnon. What happens with Reguilon? I think he gets moved on. So potentially we need another left back, right? And I think it's going to be someone that's probably playing behind Udogie in terms of the pecking order. I think right back is going to be Emerson, as we've just mentioned. So I won't go over that too much.
Actually, James, I think let me reshape this. Let me reshape this rather than you going through the whole team. And let's do it. I'll go you first every time, and then I'll get Jack coming for his version, so we can go through the specific positions. How would you guys like to see? So we got Vicario. Do we all agree Vicario and Foster as the goalkeeping choices?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So James, you're saying the reality you think at left back is going to be Udogie and Perisic as the 2 options.
I genuinely think that will happen. Yeah.
Okay, Jack, who do you think is it?
I don't see that. I think we're going to play one of really attacking fullback and maybe a Porro or a Doji, depending on who he prefers. And I think you're going to have more of a conservative fullback. So for me, I'd have Emerson on the right, and then I would probably sign someone like Van der Ven, who has the capability of playing as an understudy left centre-back, but also has the capability of playing as a left-back. Like I've said before, something Ben White's done at Arsenal. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if we make a smart signing like that where they can play in 2 positions. So Van der Ven, for me, maybe as an understudy to Udogie, and Emerson starting on the right.
And so does that mean then you'd like to sell Ben Davies and sell Sessegnon and sell Reguilon?
I think obviously it's hard to do that, but I feel like that would be an ideal scenario. I don't think Sessegnon really has the capability to play in a Tottenham shirt at left back. I definitely don't think Perisic has, and I've got a feeling Reguilon would prefer to be in Spain than be at Tottenham again. So For me, that's the ideal scenario. So if we can look to move them on, I would.
All right. Okay. So we're looking for 2 players in each position. And then obviously with a squad of 25, you get 3 utility players. One of them has to be a goalkeeper in case you got problems there. So you get 3 goalkeepers, you get 2 players for every position, and you get 2 players that can kind of add into the squad. So right now we've got, let's say, Brandon Austin, Foster, and Vicario. Left back, James is saying Perisic and Udogie. Jack is saying Udogie and Van der Ven.
But you just mentioned the utility players. Ben Davies could almost be the third or second left back.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Ben Davies should be the utility player. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
okay, so left side. So let's pivot to right back. Obviously Emerson. We all agree on Emerson.
Yeah.
Do you see Porro being the right back, or do you see him being repositioned to play more up the field, or do you see Jed Spence stepping up? How do you see that shaping up? I'll start with you, James.
I mean, I'd love to see Jed Spence be given a chance. At the end of the day, we signed him because he was incredible at Nottingham Forest that season. And yeah, for some reason, Conte just didn't believe in it. We all had that thing about was it a Daniel Levy club signing? And I think it probably was. But I think actually Jed Spence could be a good backup, actually, thinking about it. So I almost think you've got 3 right backs there, because you've got Emerson Royale, you've got Jed Spence, who hopefully won't get loaned out, but I've got an inkling he might get loaned out again. And then you've got Pedro Porro, and I know the chat's going to start saying he's not a right back and stuff like that, but actually, I think it depends on the game. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but if we need that defensive solidity. We saw it under Conte, where we played Emerson Royale as the right wing back. It's similar for the 4 at the back. You're going to play Emerson Royale when you need a more defensive-minded game. But when you've got maybe, I don't know, let's throw out a team. I think Brentford aren't going to do as well this year. Let's say we're playing Brentford, for example. I could generally see Pedro Porro being the right back, because I think he can do a job there. I do have my question marks about his defensive abilities, but don't forget we're playing a different system under Ange with the inverted fullback. So let's see if that would work. But Jack, maybe you completely disagree with me on that.
Funnily enough, James, for the first time, I don't. I believe Porro deserves the opportunity to play as a right back, because I think I will keep talking about Alistair Gold, but he put out an article, I think, saying Postecoglou appreciates him. And I think he may have the ability to have the tactical flexibility to play inverted, and maybe have a Van der Ven as a more conservative left back. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, you're going to have different styles of players who play in the same position. So you might have more conservative fullbacks, you might have more attacking fullbacks like Porro and Udogie. So I think he deserves the opportunity to see if he fits in there. And if he doesn't, then maybe move him further forward or look to sell him on. But I think Emerson is going to suit that role well, I hope, because I think he's very sound defensively. And I think Porro deserves the opportunity. But the only thing I do disagree with, I think Spence needs another loan. I don't think he's ready to come straight in unless he thrives in pre-season. But I feel he needs regular game time, and he's not going to get that at Tottenham right now.
I completely agree. 100% agree. For me, I've not seen anything from Jed Spence to make me have confidence that he can step up to the Premier League. I think we're in a proper transition right now. Listen, I'll trust Postecoglou, but if he thinks Jed Spence is ready, I'll be on board it. But I don't suspect he will. I personally think that this is something I'm not going to discuss tonight, because I want to move on and continue with the theme. But this week, I definitely am going to be looking into the argument for another wingback, another fullback, because I'm not sure that Porro can play it, and I've not seen anything to think he can. And on that basis, unless you were to sign like a Tosin Adarabioyo, however you say his last name, Tosin from Fulham, who might be able to play right-sided centre-back or right-back, then I think that Tottenham might need to go back into the market, because I don't think we have anything that naturally plays a right back apart from Emerson Royale. And I think that's an issue for me. Sorry, Jack. Go on, mate.
Sorry to interrupt. I know we want to move on and keep it moving. But the only argument I would have, just to be diplomatic, is I'm not saying Porro has the technical ability that Alexander-Arnold has. But if he's going to play more inverted, and we know Porro is very good at crossing the ball and he has strong technical ability, is he going to be able to play that role? Maybe adding as another midfielder there and be able to play those intricate passes in behind the defender. Because for me, he's a very good passer of the ball. So I wonder if that could be explored. Maybe not. He's definitely not as good as Alexander-Arnold as his passing. But in pre-season, could that be something that could work? I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out there.
And one more thing, Sean, I'm sort of reversing the question on you a little bit, is if we need another fullback, and I agree with you, you've got to ask yourself the question, do we go for a right back or a left back? Because I would say we need a backup for both, right? Because we've just gone through left back and struggled to go, I don't think Reguilon, I don't think Perisic, da-da-da-da-da. You could almost say we need a left back and a right back. So then the question is,
you could definitely make that argument. You could 100% make that argument, but I think if you're looking for someone who naturally plays as a left back, then you could make the argument that Reguilon can do it. I know he's been injured a lot. I know he's not necessarily focusing on his game, but he has that in his locker. You could also make the argument that Sessegnon is a natural left back, not really a left wing back. And I don't think either of them are good enough, but there is an option there. And Tottenham are going to have limited budgets, so you can only spend the money where you can spend it. And I don't think, I think someone was making it at the point in the comments, it's the least of our priorities.
Yeah.
And I think it is. Lynch was saying it. And I agree with you. It is the least of our priorities. It's not a priority, but it's something that might have to happen either in window 2 or window 3. Maybe it's a next summer problem. Maybe it's a January problem. But I don't think that we have. I don't believe that Porro is a right back. I think the defensive responsibilities are pretty significant. I don't think he has them. I think he's a better fit in a wing back or as as something more advanced. So I'm not going to make the argument because it's whole other conversation. But I'm not going to make the argument that we should do anything now. But I do think there's a problem. I think we only have one recognizable, logistically fitting right back, and I think everyone else that we have is either not good enough or not a good fit for the position. Let's move to the centre back, guys. I think we can all agree that Romero on the right side is the first choice.
Definitely,
right?
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that Tanganga. Can we all agree that Tanganga, Rodon, Sanchez, and Dyer are not required or not desirable?
Correct.
Yeah, not desirable, that's for sure.
So we need 3 new centre backs. We need 1 to place deputy or competition for Romero, and then 2 on the left. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
You think there's an argument, which I know most people on this channel and almost myself included would like to see us sell on Dyer because there's probably a bit of value still there. But he's integral to the leadership. And would he? I don't think he is better in a Postecoglou system, but having that key figure around the dressing room, someone that is willing to.
1 second. Sorry. So someone's at my door. 1 second, mate.
Just people that are willing to, really say you weren't good enough in that game. He's not afraid to tell people what they're doing wrong. Do you think there's an argument to say we're missing leadership? We're lacking leadership already with Lloris potentially leaving the club. Do you need that in the background, James, or do you reckon we've got to move on? Don't worry about the leadership side of things.
No, I 100% disagree with you, actually, Jack. I think that Eric Dyer isn't a leader. He's never been a leader. He likes to think he is, but he's genuinely not. Every time he's sort of been thrown in the mix for let him be Tottenham captain. Even 5-6 years ago, I was scratching my head saying no, he's not a leader. I honestly believe that genuinely he has to leave. I feel like he's one of the toxic ones in the club now, where he just has to move on. It's got dry, it's got stale, and you have to move Eric Dyer on. I don't care if he is some kind of great leader behind the scenes. I don't think he is, and B, he's not good enough at football. So I don't want someone there that's not good at football and that's trying to be a leader and big up the dressing room. I mean, I go back to the Amazon documentary, right, with Jose Mourinho and that season where Dele Alli and Eric Dyer had a bit of a set too in the dressing room. And Dele Alli went nuts to Eric Dyer, and Eric Dyer went, "Oh, you're always moaning, Dele." I actually don't think Eric Dyer has a very good attitude. I would genuinely, in a heartbeat, get rid of Eric Dyer. In fact, I think I'm getting rid of Eric Dyer before Davinson Sanchez, genuinely. I cannot stand him. I think he's awful at football. He makes so many mistakes. The amount of times I've just wasted my time talking about how many mistakes he makes in games, it's a 50-50 chance he makes a mistake and ruins a game for us. And he's not a leader, Jack. I refuse to believe it. So for me,
I didn't say he was a leader, but I was saying that
Eric Dyer, are we? We Eric Dyer bound?
What I said, surely,
he has to go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the only point I put forward was that, say we can't get him free centre halves because with Tottenham it's unlikely, we've got lots of players to make. Is his leadership qualities more valuable than the likes of a Sanchez and Tanganga and Roden? That's the only point I was making, because I really don't think
leadership qualities are stronger than that. But look, I'm not in any way, shape, or form deluded enough to think that we can fix the entire back line in one window. In a dream world scenario, I would love to see our back line, or those two centre back spots, look like Romero on the right, Tosin behind him, and on the left, a Tapsoba with, I don't know, for me, an Hiroki Ito behind him, or to your point, mate, a Van der Ven who can play as the backup or can play as in that spot or can play at the left. Dream world scenario. Reality, we know we're Tottenham fans. We're dealing with Daniel Levy. He's never going to spend that much money in one window unless he was able to go and get 10 million for Sanchez, 20 million for Dyer, 7-8 million for Rodon. If you could go and find 40 million quid from the centre-backs that he's got that are surplus to requirements, then maybe you could see this stuff happening. But there's so much to do in that regard, so much precious time that needs to be spent on a million other positions. I just don't see it all working out. However, I agree with you guys that Eric Dyer, for me, is the best of a very bad bunch, but in an ideal world, he doesn't get his new contract.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The only argument to support him getting one is because of homegrown players, but I think we can figure them out later on or up the pitch somewhere else. And that's where I want to move us to, right? Because I think the midfield situation, and I do want to be done in, like, we've been going for an hour and 40, guys. I want to give everyone their Sunday back in the next 15 minutes. So let's try and get through this next part quicker. But for me, I think the bulk of the conversation is in the midfield. I think at the moment you've got Bissouma that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I think I'm going to think of him as a new signing. I think he's going to be excellent. I don't know if he's going to be perfect for the six, but I think he'll be the best of what we have. Obviously, you got Bentancur, who, from what reports I've read, he's back sooner rather than later. He's going to be back in the club in the team by late September, which is good to hear. It's not going to take until December. And then you have maybe James Maddison, right? I talked about this on a walk I did this morning. Like, if you think about the 11 and the midfield three are Bissouma, Bentancur, Maddison, that's a really impressive midfield three.
Really,
but really good.
But right, the problem for me is that there's no real rumors of us signing anybody else in the midfield. It's just Maddison, which leads me to think, well, what happens if any of those guys are not in the team? Then you default to the reserve 11, and that reserve 11 looks like Sarr, Skip, and one of Ndombele or Lo Celso, and that to me is a big fucking problem.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Can I quickly give my thoughts on the centre mids, because I genuinely believe we need one centre mid, and I know it's not all going to happen in one window. But again, I go back to it. We were doing our ideal 150 mil, and I actually put in Sofian Amrabat because I believe he is. He's a gem. He was fantastic in that Europa League conference final. I know Fiorentina lost to West Ham, as we all know, but he was fantastic on the ball. He looked calm on the ball. Every time he got the ball, the players pushed up for Fiorentina. It created an attack every time he got on the ball. He can also pass the ball. He's not afraid to get stuck in. He is a fantastic number 6 and potentially can even play an 8. I would genuinely look at Sofian Amrabat as being that versatile centre mid where
I love Sofian Amrabat.
Yeah.
He will fit into the 6 role better than Bissouma, because the role of the 6, when you're doing the high press and you're asking the front 5 to press that, to press as a unit, you're asking the goalkeeper to hit it long. The best way to retain possession is to have people that are brilliant in the air in that regard. And you obviously need 2 centre-backs then that are going to marshal that defence to win the ball back. And they're either going to nod it down to the 6, or the 6 is going to be the guy who wins the ball in the air and nods it down to the centre-back. So having a 6 who is not only competent on the ball, with his ability to ping passes left and right, 2-footed, who can break the line, who can press, who can do all the things that a monster 6 does, like the guy from Fulham, the guy from Porto, from Sporting. We speak about them all the time on this channel. Paulinho, Ugarte, whatever. All those guys, right? They'd be excellent. I know Ugarte's gone to PSG. Like Paulinho is talking to West Ham. If West Ham can convince him to come, Tottenham can. I genuinely think that Tottenham need to step up and recognise that Bissouma, whilst a brilliant player, and I know my boy 24Z's in the house, and I know how much he loves Bissouma, and he thinks that I don't love Bissouma because I'm always calling him out. I'm not calling him out. I love Bissouma. I love him. I just don't think he fits the 6 that we need from Postecoglou perfectly. And even if he does, we need someone to deputise if Bissouma gets injured. And I don't think that Skip can do it, and I don't think that Sarr can do it. So I think that Tottenham need to find a 6. And for me, I don't know how much Palhinha is going to cost. People talking about 60, 70 million quid. For me, I think he's a wonderful player. But I would equally go to your point, James, and go, you could probably get Sofiane Amrabat for 45. And for me, that guy is a beast in the air. He's built like a brick shit house. I think he is the guy. If it's not Palhinha, for me, it's Amrabat. Yeah. I think he would be brilliant in the 6. Sorry, James, for taking over your rant.
No, genuinely, incredible points. Like you said, I also have my concerns about Bissouma being a 6 because Bissouma, if you think about it back at his Brighton days, he liked to get forward. He liked to get into the edge of the box and make shots. So that's not really a 6. That's more of an 8. So I would genuinely love to see Bissouma in an 8, Amrabat in a 6, and Maddison in the 10. And I'm absolutely in dreamland. That's what I would love. But we're not the directors of football. No one is because we don't have one. But at the end of the day, we are a midfielder short, and I think the club needs to realise that very soon.
And I agree, and I think there's real potential there in that midfield. We're talking about those starting 3 players. That gets me excited to watch Tottenham again. A midfield 3 of Bissouma, Bentancur, and Maddison is brilliant, but at the end of the day, you need cover for that, and a Sofiane Amrabat would be perfect. And I don't actually think he would cost about 40 to 45 million because I think he's only got a year left on his contract. He said to Fiorentina he wants out. And Barcelona were being quoted, I think it was £25 million in the January window. Really? And they couldn't afford him due to financial fair play rules. So what I'm saying is if they still can't afford him and we can go under the radar and get a player of his calibre, then you've got someone as experienced who loves to play in a 6 in Amrabat, and you've got someone who has the potential to be a brilliant player in Yves Bissouma. Then you're starting to build the foundations of a great midfield.
Would you swap right now with Fiorentina? Is it plausible? Højbjerg for me, a wonderful servant for Tottenham. I'm going to wish the guy well. I think he's been a brilliant player. The guy's got an engine that you would dream to have if it was you. And he's built like a machine. He never gets injured. But I just don't think, and this is not a question mark over his talent. I think he's a very good player. I just don't think he suits the Postecoglou system. So I think that I would happily liquidate him. And would you do a straight swap? Him for Amrabat, send him to Fiorentina and bring Amrabat?
100%. I think Højbjerg is a talented player, and I think there are going to be teams out there probably in European spots. I think even Bayern Munich have said they're quite interested as he's been there before. But someone of Amrabat, I feel every time I've watched him play, Spurs have done their due diligence on this guy. We wanted him before, and Spurs fans weren't happy. But after watching him at the World Cup and watching him play in that conference final, you can tell he's got engine. He doesn't stop running. He's got fantastic ball playing ability, and he's confident in his own ability. I honestly think he's brilliant, and I would definitely make a straight swap. And we are, like I've said, laying down the foundations of a really good midfield as long as we bring someone creative in front of them as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's recap a little bit. Oh, sorry. Go on, James. Go on, mate.
No, I was just going to make a very, very quick point. A couple of people in the chat I've seen have mentioned Liverpool linked with Amrabat, and I could actually see that happening as well. You think about Fabinho maybe passing his peak, I would say. That would be perfect for their system. I could see Amrabat in a Liverpool team as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are genuinely linked with him.
Listen, a lot of Tottenham players are a lot of Tottenham's links are also linked with Liverpool. It's always the way. We've spoken about Van de Ven, and we've spoken about Tapsoba. Liverpool are looking at both of those. I would love it if just once Tottenham were not gazumped by Liverpool. Just once Liverpool wanted it, but Tottenham got the guy, because it's usually the other way around. But let's 100%. Let's not focus on Liverpool. Let's get back to summarise. So in terms of the 4-3-3 at the moment, so far, I think we've all agreed somewhat that we got Vicario in goal with Foster, backup. Behind that, I think we both agree. All three of us agree that we've got Romero, who's definitely needs to be here. Everybody else from the current centre back squad needs to go in an ideal world.
Yeah.
And in an ideal world, we would like people that are linked with us. We're happy with the links. We're happy with Tosin. We're happy with Van der Ven. We're happy with Tapsoba. Longley. There's an argument that no one really wants him, but if he has to come in, we'll take him if it means that we can spend the 50 million on a big boy like a Tapsoba, and then also not dilute our budget, right? And then on the left back situation, the right back situation, I think there's a little bit of compromise going on. We know that Udoji is good. I think we're happy with Emerson, but I think there's an argument. I think there's an argument this week to have a conversation around the right back, and I'm going to be doing that on this channel. So dial in for that. And as far as the left back, I think we've got Udoji as the first choice, and the second choice, I don't think any of us want Sessegnon. I don't think any of us really think that Reguilon's going to do it. But maybe Ben Davies can play that utility player. Maybe not. Right? But then as we move up the pitch into the midfield role, we all see the value in Bentancur. We all see the value in Bissouma. As a 6, we all agree. I think. Do we all agree that Skippy and Sarr, one of them might be okay, but not both? Or are we okay with them?
It's interesting because I think Sarr definitely has the potential, and Skip is a fantastic tackler of the ball, but I don't think Skip has the ability to play as a lone 6 because I don't think he has the capability ball playing wise. But I think there is a real player in Sarr. We saw how well we played against AC Milan in the Champions League, but I think they're too young to just be the understudy. I feel like playing a midfield 3, you need a lot more midfielders. So yeah, I like them, but I'm not fully convinced just yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we saying? So are we collectively saying then that Tottenham need? Because we're not being linked. Right, we're being linked with a bunch of centre backs, a goalkeeper. We're being linked with attacking midfielders, and we're being linked with forwards, like wing forwards. But we're not really being linked with people that can play behind Bissouma, and that to me is a concern. So I think we need someone in. I think we need someone in there. Are we agreed on that?
This
100%.
Week's a new week, Sean. You wait. We'll be linked with a couple of number 6s. I genuinely believe that. Whether we'll get them or not is another situation. But I mean, we've had a new centre back link every single day I've woken up. So the list of the short list has become a long list recently. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get linked with some midfilders. But to go to your point, I think
Shortley is what they're going to be calling it from now on. I think.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if we did a 1-2 of each centre mid, you've got. I think you've got to keep Sarr as a backup on 1. I think Højbjerg's probably going to be a backup on 1, and then Bentancur, Bissouma as the 2 behind the 10. I think that would be it. But yeah, I think you guys probably agree.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of work to do in this midfield 3 for me personally. Let me ask you this quickly, and we'll try and finish in 9 minutes. So we got to get through the inside forwards on the right and the left and the striker. Let's get the strikers out of the way. Are you guys happy with Harry Kane and Richarlison being the backup?
I'm not happy with Harry Kane.
Yeah.
You'll be fine with that.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Good job.
All right. Okay. So for me, I wanted to spend a little bit of time. We want a Maddison. If we get a Maddison, do we also keep an Ndombele? In your mind, do you think Postecoglou is going to run his eye over this guy and go,
yeah,
he's worth keeping?
Oh,
yeah.
No. Not
6
Jack.
months. 6 months he's worth keeping. I think he's realised he's not good enough just to walk into any other team in Europe. He's got one more chance really of playing top level football. And yes, he might not be good enough, but I've said it before, his technical ability, there's not many people that have that talent. And I would like to see him play. Look at James bashing his head against the microphone. James, football's all about opinions.
It's okay because Jack, it invokes anger, this particular one. Like, I don't think anyone wants to necessarily see this version of Ndombele start games, but you could envision a version of Ndombele coming off the bench. If you're struggling, if you're 1-0 down, or if you're 1-1 in a tight game against a team that's doing the low block.
I mean, he can unlock a defense. He has the ability to That's what I mean. I'm not sticking my neck on the line to say he's going to be a starter week in, week out, because he's certainly not. He hasn't got the engine for that. But if we're always on the ball, then Ndombele, there is not many better players in Europe to get out of tight spaces. Everyone's watched the highlight reel. he finds ways to unlock doors. I remember when Tottenham beat Liverpool. No, I think we drew 2-2. But when Harry Kane scored that goal to get that equaliser, Ndombele put a perfectly timed through ball to Harry Kane. If you've got two players like a Maddison and an Ndombele, there's so much creativity. Like we say, we haven't got many midfielders already. I think it's worth keeping someone who has the quality of an Ndombele, even if it's for 30 minutes. I'm not saying he's been brilliant for Napoli this year, but he's played quite a lot in most of their games, and he has shown brilliance of excellence. He needs to revive his career. He's got one more chance at it. Keep him for 6 months, because right now there's not going to be suitors paying a lot of money for him. So for me, he's got the ability to see what he can deliver.
Listen, Jack, I have no idea what commission you're getting paid by Tanguy and Ndombele, but there's no way this guy should be anywhere near this team, let alone squad, let alone fringe. I don't want to see any more of Tanguy and Ndombele. And even if Ange Postecoglou takes a look at him, he'll realise he can't run properly for more than about 40 minutes, if that. He's not going to be fit and be able to press, because that's key in an Ange system. You've got to press. You've got to press the opposition. He's not going to press. He walks around the pitch. His attitude stinks.
Even for half an hour a game, though.
His attitude stinks. Sorry, I got wound up when Jack said this on our channel. Jack, Tanguy and Ndombele might be great with a ball, but look at Paul Pogba. He gets moved on from Man United eventually because his attitude isn't great and he actually can't run for 90 minutes. You need that in a football player. You need to have a good attitude. You need to listen to the manager and you need to be fit as a fiddle. And he's none of them.
Okay, but then if you're bringing in someone like a Basuma who's got an engine, who doesn't stop running, and you have the license to go forward, the best form of attack, the best form of defence is attack. And if you're pressing high up the field and Ndombele can get in those pockets of space, I don't mind him playing 30 minutes. James, it's not Football Manager. We can't just buy loads of players. Ndombele is on a lot of wages. I'm saying if you give him 6 months to see James, what he has, it's worth it. So I'm not saying he should be a starter week in, week out, but you can't tell me he hasn't got the quality, because he certainly does. There's a player in there, James. I'm telling you that now. And if he wants to be there, I'm going to give him the opportunity.
Jack,
Moss Chops is with Jack on this one. Moss Chops says he's like all over the Endon project. But you know what, Jack? You have just absolutely football managed James off. So sorry, James. It ain't that bloody easy, bro. You know, we ain't just sitting there
it's not
managing money.
Yeah, I mean, I know we haven't got long, so I won't continue this much longer. But I'll tell you what, Tanguy and Ndombele would be good at. Would be good at FIFA Street. You're talking about video games. He'd be great in FIFA Street because you don't have to run and you can do these fancy flicks around the opponent. Jack, we're playing 11 aside, 90-minute football. He hasn't got a bloody chance in hell to do that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, mate. We will wait and see, and I can't wait in 6 months' time to be back on this channel and tell you what. Ndombele, most improved player of the year. We will see. Time will tell.
Honestly, Jack, that's ridiculous.
All right, listen. We're gonna move up to the last. We got 3 or 4 minutes. Last couple of questions. Right. How do you see in your dream world scenario the right side? Jack, I'll start with you. I take it Decky's part of it. Do you see Porro being the rotation? Is Porro a utility player that can play either right back, and then when he's not down there because Emerson's in, maybe he can come off the bench? Or do you see Tottenham having to go out and find another inside forward that can challenge Decky?
I don't think he's a forward, in my opinion. I'm sure James is going to disagree with me on this one as well. But I feel like we need to spend the money on a winger, a young and up-and-coming who has the quality, because I think it's too complicated. If you're learning 2 roles, you're not going to be able to give 100% to one. And I feel like he needs to focus on the right-back spot. He's got a fantastic goal on the last game of the season when he had a lot of space to operate in. But for me, he's more of a natural right-back than he is a right winger.
Okay. So do you see who do you see being? So are Tottenham needing to go and find someone to compete with Decky then? Definitely.
I think there is, because you need different types of players. Like Kulusevski is very creative, but in my opinion, he's not one of the fastest players. He will drive at players, but he's not going to burn players past him like Son used to. So you need someone who has the capability to do that. Maybe, like I said, an Adeyemi.
Who is that guy? My favorite, my number one guy. No one talks about this guy. I got no idea why he isn't linked with the best teams. Club Brugge, absolute talent, 23-year-old Andreas Skov-Olsen. I think this guy is going to be an absolute monster. The stats of what you need from someone. If you dial it into Y-Scout, you dial it into FBrefs, and then you transition the stats, and then you check him out in real time, and you'll see what I see. Yeah. Skov-Olsen is going to be a an extraordinary talent, and I don't understand why no one is looking at him. For me,
another one,
15 million quid purchase, and he comes in and he's 10 times better than Brian Hill. For me, 10 times better than Brian.
I like it. I can't say I'm the most educated on Olsen, but I will say I watch quite a lot of Jeremy Doku. He's really impressed me every time he's played for Belgium, but at the same time he lacks end product. But like we say, if someone has supreme one-on-one ability and can create space for the forwards like a Kane, like a Son, who we know are composed in front of goal, maybe that's an option. Definitely not maybe Adama Traore, but we were talking about him in a Conte system creating space. Could Doku do that as well as a little rotational forward who probably wouldn't cost too much money? I think there's another alternative maybe out there.
Yeah. Okay. James.
Yeah, I think Porro could be the utility player, as you put it, Sean. That can play, depending on the game, potentially fill in a right back, but mainly a right winger. I think that's where he's going to fit in. Doku's a good shout, Jack. He's a tricky player coming from the French league, good at taking on players, quick, almost similar to when we got Lucas Moura from PSG, right? Similar sort of player. In fact, someone's just put he's a more a regen in the chat, but yeah, don't want to go over it too much. But Kulusevski, and then I would look at getting a right winger, probably a youngster like is on our wish list apparently.
All right. And the very last thing, guys, we've got a super chat from Jack Williams. Thank you so much for super chat. Where is it? Here we go. Thanks so much, mate. You haven't said anything. If you'd like me to call something out, let me know what your thoughts are. Didn't see it. Maybe you misprinted, but great analogy from Doku about Doku, says 24/7. All right, last question, guys. Last question. What's it going to take for an 8 out of 10 plus window? Tell me the names right now of the players you want out. Literally 30 seconds. Jack, I'll start with you. Name the 7-8 players that you want gone, and name me the 6 or 7 players that you want in to make your window an 8 out of 10.
Right, let's go for it. Straight in there. James Maddison, the statement signing, gets me excited to watch football. What a player. We're not going to get another chance to sign him, so bring him in now. Pay the money. Sofian Amrabat, a fantastic 6. Really impressed me this season. If we can get him for £20 million, brilliant. Tap Sober, statement left centre-back signing. A backup centre-back can also play left back, Van der Ven. Who else would I like to see? It's definitely got to be a winger. If we're going to push the boat out, I'd like to see an Adeyemi. If Harvey Barnes comes in, he's a good rotational option. If not, yeah, they're going to be my 2. I'm running out of time, but I'll tell you what, that starts for a good window.
Vicario as well.
Obviously, Decky. Decky's been purchased, yeah. And just quickly, Sanchez, I think, has to go. Dyer, I would like to see him go, but I understand it's not Football Manager. I think Lo Celso doesn't want to be there. I think we can recoup a bit of money there. Barcelona like him. If there's a deal for Ansu Fati in a swap deal there, I'm not fully against it. I'm not saying he wants to come to Tottenham, but there's an option there. Maybe I've said it on the channel earlier, James. And then who else? I think any players that don't want to play for the club and visions aren't aligned with Postecoglou, you're not in my Tottenham team.
Love it. That's an 8 out of 10 window for me. James, what's your 8 out of 10 window?
Right, I'm starting with the outgoings first because I think the list is quite long. So, Sean, you might have to count how many I say here. Eric Dyer, Ryan Sessegnon, Davinson Sanchez, Harry Winks, Lo Celso, Ndombele, and I would probably even go Perisic as well. So that's who I'd want gone. The end ones is not quite as important, but like Lo Celso and what was the last one I said isn't quite as important, Perisic, but the first few I mentioned is definitely important. In terms of the incomings, you've got to get a centre-back. I'm going Tap Sober, as I said earlier. And I think you need then a backup, and I would probably go Van der Ven, like Jack mentioned, because he's versatile. He can play left back. He's a bit like a Vertonghen, so we've never really replaced Vertonghen, have we? So I'd go for him. Everyone's saying he's a Vertonghen regen. That's 2. Maddison, 100 million % has to be the statement signing, like Jack said. I think you have to get a winger. I'd look at Doku or players. That's maybe even your guy, Sean. Maybe I need to look into this guy a little bit more. Sounds like he's an absolute baller. And obviously, we've got the goalkeeper in. So there's the 5 key signings. And then I think you go number 6, Sofian Amrabat, like I've been saying for most of the video. So, yeah.
Love it.
Absolutely love it. I couldn't disagree with you less, and I couldn't agree with you guys more. All the names you mentioned, I'm okay with all that. If Tottenham can find a way to make that window happen, that's an 8 out of 10 on anyone's radar. Even you, 24Z, even you, Scott M, even you, Jonathan Mills, even you, Edward Kim, whatever. All of the specific ranges of wherever you sit, whether you're positive, negative, whether you want massive change or minimal change, that window that Jack and James have just put out there should make us all happy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end it right now. But before we do, I want to say a massive shout out to all of you in the chat. But I also want to give Jack and James the chance to plug their channel. I have been putting it in there. The link is in the description and the title of the page, up and below. James and Jack, what is happening? Thank you so much for coming on. What's going on the Spurs related? And guys, listen, there's still 400 and whatever it is people watching. Can you just hit the link if you haven't already and smash that little subscribe button to help those guys out so that they can also get to experience you lot being on their channel every single day. James and Jack, what's coming up on the channel?
Go on, Jack. I'm Mr. Football Manager, so you're Mr. Plug Man. Go on.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I just want to start off saying, Sean, what a privilege to let us on your channel. We love coming on. It's been too long, and I absolutely love having these debates. But what's happening over at Spurs Related? Lots of fan interaction. We love trying to build a community. I go to a lot of matches, so next year you can expect to see lots of vlogs. I did one earlier last year in Milan. I love interacting with the people. I love having a bit of a laugh. I try to get my personality to come across, as well as I'd like to think, as James may disagree, a bit of football knowledge in there as well. So yeah, we have a great laugh over there. We love our debates. We love our controversial point of views. But most of all, everyone's welcome. We're a friendly channel and we have a good time. So yeah, come check us out. We're growing.
Yeah, spot on. And just to quickly echo, massive thank you, Sean, for inviting us on, mate. It's been a while, like I said. And
anytime you want. Yeah. Anytime you want to come on.
Absolutely loved it. And you were generous enough to plug our channel like 3-4 times there. So, massive. You didn't have to do that, but we really appreciate it, of course. But main thing is, guys, get Sean to 10K. I mean, he's going to do that probably by tomorrow anyway, the way he's growing. But it's incredible to see. I think I just looked. It was like 300 or 400 off. So incredible. But yeah, there was like 600-700 watching earlier and like 300 likes. So let's smash Sean's likes. But yeah, very quickly, like I said earlier, there's an £150 million budget video coming out in about half an hour. So where we've technically done the breakdown of who we're going to buy and who we're going to sell. So yeah, that video is out in about 30 minutes on our channel. So if people could go and check that out, massive appreciation.
Definitely.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
guys,
I'll just quickly say what a community you're building as well. Everyone loves coming in. It brings the Spurs fans together. We get to talk about what we love. We get to have a laugh. But we sat here for 2 hours talking Tottenham, and it does not feel like it. And I tell you what, let's get behind the team this year. It's a new era at Tottenham. Let's see what can happen. Maybe a trophy. Maybe Ndombele is going to be the new Iniesta. Let's go and see, boys. But I tell you what, let's get behind the team because it's going to be a good year. I can feel it.
It's going to be a great year. It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal year. I can't wait for this season. Dry roasted peanut, you're absolutely spot on, mate. I haven't eaten the Pringles. It's very unprofessional of me. But once you have one, you absolutely can't have anything less than the entire box. And I finished the entire thing. Guys, I love you. Jack, James, thank you so much. Big up to the Irish Hotspur as well, Dave, for coming on for the first hour. Guys, in the comments, you were locked in the entire way. I really appreciate you guys always being here. We'll see you tomorrow for, I don't know, like the miserable Mondays. Everyone's back to work, but you're going to get out with me and Bugsy, and we're going to talk you through whatever's in the news tomorrow. There'll be something to talk about. Get over to James and Jack for Spurs Related. Their show's coming out at 9:30, and lock yourself in. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe, and we will see you again very soon. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all, and as always, come on, you.